Yes, and after 13 days and more than 1,700 kilometers, it's now the second time trial, the race against the truth. The man that wins with the best time takes the day, but you know he could also win the Vuelta. Yes, after over 53 kilometers, this is one of the longest time trials in the history of the Tour of Spain. We stay in and around the city of Albacete today. The wind will come at them from all directions. This is the overall situation. Isidro Nozal looking for an 11th day in the leader's yellow jersey. A minute 48 over González de Galdeano, his teammate. Beltran, Heras, Mancebo will all look to close down the gap today. Further back, the two big losers yesterday, Dario Frigo and Aitor González, are great time trial riders. They'll need to be now to start closing down these gaps. Now, the American riders are riding well. George Hincapie is in, so too is Floyd Landis, who is sitting on the 6th best time. Leipheimer is sitting on the 4th best time at the moment. Freddie Rodriguez and Bobby Julich, there are the times for you to see.
Well, it's been an incredible effort by one of the very best in the business. David Miller won the last long individual time trial recently in the Tour de France just a few weeks ago. He's still on good form. He set a scintillating time against the wind from the turnaround point on the course when it comes back against the riders, the headwind all the way to the finish. He conserved a little bit throughout the day and still had incredible amounts of power and speed all the way to the line and set a very fast time. Over 3 minutes faster than the nearest man when he got to the line. Riders have started to come a little bit closer, but he is still leading.
Well, the one thing about David Miller is he gets quicker as the race gets longer, and so the case has proved again. 62 minutes, 16.5 seconds, and that is the current situation. Sergei Ivanov gave him a few shocks, only 2 seconds behind him at the first check, fell away to finish 27 seconds slower. Similar thing for Bert Grabsch, who did the same in the first time trial. Levi Leipheimer continues to improve. He is a good time trial rider and holding 4th place at the moment, and Tony Towler there of Kelme is in 5th. Now I think we can go straight to the action, and I think we might see, it says Moreni there, we can't be far away though. Hincapie. So this is Christian Moreni and George Hincapie coming to the line now, and another good ride here. Hincapie is bridging a gap of 2 minutes here. The clock is running on Hincapie's time, and George, rather good ride by George.
George doing a great ride here. He's in 8th place so far, and just not forget, he's been doing tempo all throughout the Vuelta at the front of the bike race, defending both Beltran and Heras, his teammates.
But here's Klaus Moller now. He's just about reaching Miller's time short of the line, but it's been a very, very good effort by Klaus Moller here, as I think he should get in 2nd place and beat Ivanov. It'd be a bit of a sprint because he's been going slow and he's making the effort now. He knows he's close. He'll be sad he hasn't matched Miller's time. He was beating it the first 2 time checks, but a huge effort. He's going to have to finish off with a flourish, and I'm not too sure he will now. I think Ivanov might hang on here as Moller comes up towards the line now. He's got 3 seconds, so he has slowed quite substantially over the last quarter of the course, and Klaus Moller hits the line with only the 4th best time of 1:2:48. He really did crack over those last few kilometers.
Roberto Heras in the start line has to do something very special today to remain competitive for the overall title in the Vuelta a Espana. You can see that yesterday there was absolutely no hesitation on the U.S. Postal Squadron. They most certainly haven't given up. They went into the wind, tore the race apart, and they did a great job. Roberto Heras, I'm sure, will give everything for this time trial.
Now, the last man of the 168. When he came to the time trial a week ago, we were expecting him to be replaced by a new leader at the end. He not only was not replaced, he won the time trial, beating David Miller. Miller was surprised, Nozal was surprised. If he does the same today, we won't be fooled again. We'll start to look at this man as the future winner of this race. Moving on to 27, we have no information. Oh, Santos González, this is not Aitor. Santos has gone through here with the 5th best time, which is holding what he had at the Earlier check of 14 kilometres, also 5th best time there. We are waiting and wondering why they haven't given us Aitor Gonzalez this time, because he was due there about 5 minutes ago, but no information coming from the timekeepers in Spain at the moment. But they'll get it right before the big boys get there, I'm sure. Not that Gonzalez isn't a big boy.
Well, he is a big boy. Let's not forget he actually represented Spain at the Olympic Games in Sydney in the individual time trial. It's a very important day for Roberto Heras. He's moved high up in the overall classification. With that move yesterday, a very good orchestrated move by US Postal Service. He moved up into 4th place in the overall classification. But breathing down his neck, a minute and 11 seconds behind, in fact, is Aitor Gonzalez, and only 46 seconds behind him, in fact, is Dario Frigo. So I think the top end of the overall classification is going to change quite a bit this afternoon. It always amazes me when you look at a rider like Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. His position on the machine doesn't really indicate the amount of power this man is developing right now, because to put it into technical terms, he is probably producing around about 500 watts of energy right now.
This is an exceptional ride by Roberto Heras, doing it on the flat, of course, with his known ability on the mountaintop still to come. He could yet be a top 3 finish, and he knows it. This will be a most interesting time here, because he's about a minute and a half he's taken out of Mancebo. He's closing in just about 30 seconds or so, and he'll be up on him because they started at 2-minute gaps. Here we go. As he hits the line, it's going to be 5th best time at this point, 31.47, conceding 52 seconds at this point to Klaus Mola.
You can see Nozal in the distance down there. There's a yellow car. The second Once team car is following the last man to start. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, not for the moment rivaling the 2 times at the top of the leaderboard, the times of Mola and Miller, but still he is rivaling the best times. And you know what impresses me the most is Roberto Heras is only a few seconds behind Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, who goes through there with the 5th best time at this point.
And a full minute quicker than Dario Frigo at that point too, which is a very interesting marker, I think. Mola has the best time here of 30.55. Gonzalez de Galdeano has gone through 31.32, a minute quicker than Frigo. And this man, clearly the best of the men who are looking for a high finish in Madrid. Has he confirmed it? Look at this. He's coming through now. This man has found his time trialing legs as well. He's going to be just on the same time as Mola. 30.55.3. They say he's quicker.
Well, it's exactly the same time, only separated by tenths or even thousandths of a second. This man is certainly been the huge surprise of the Vuelta a Espana here right now, and I have to say they've put him on a very special machine here this afternoon, Bob, because it's emblazoned with gold finished equipment, and that's probably a lot to do with the fact that he's wearing the golden jersey. There's confirmation at 27 kilometers covered. Isidro Nozal and Klaus Mola exactly the same time. 4 seconds ahead of David Miller. Bert Grabsch in 4th position there, 9 seconds in arrears, and Sergei Ivanov down there in 5th place. But this is turning out to be rather a splendid individual time trial, and I'm very impressed with Roberto Heras there, Phil, in 7th place.
5th at all of the checks. I think he's going to confirm 5th place on the line for the former champion of the time trial of Spain, that is. And here he comes, Santos Gonzalez, producing a nice kick, and nice to see him in the race, because this is the team that may not have been here if Cipollini decided not to ride in the team, so be it just for the team time trial. 5th place at the moment, 1-4 there for him, back out on the course. This man is looking rather set to break a 1-2 barrier at the moment, and he might be the only man to do it if he can maintain this place.
It's all going to be down up to the last 15 kilometres, because as we said, the wind this afternoon is basically a southeasterly wind, a complete change in wind direction as we get down towards the bottom of the Spanish peninsula, and they've got a tailwind over the first half of the course and then a very difficult headwind on their way back into Albacete for the finishing time.
It's a good ride by Alejandro Valverde. Remember, it's to be points for that blue jersey, because he wants to keep high up in the overall classification in the combine competition, and he looks as though he might just about better the top 10 here if he can hold his sprint to the line. He's going to drop behind Floyd Landis. He's got to get inside Alberto Martinez. He might just about do that. He's good. And 9th place finish for the moment for Valverde, 1:4:47. Good solid ride. And Dario Frigo, one or two of us tipped this man to win yesterday. It looks as though he's let us all down, because he too has suffered after that long chase in the crosswinds yesterday when he lost more than a minute. And he's losing the Tour of Spain here right now, I think, because he's just about going to creep into the top 35 riders as he comes up to the line. So the man who really should have been in the top 6 at this stage of the day is just about coming in with a 1 hour 6 minute ride, puts him in 32nd place, and he'll go further down than that.
I'll tell you what, that's completely blown away my predictions, Phil, as Francisco Mancebo comes up to the line right now. Pretty reasonable time by him as well, and right on his tail, just round the corner there, I caught a glimpse of Roberto Heras. My predictions for the day were Dario Frigo and, of course, Aitor Gonzalez, and they certainly have let the side down this afternoon. But there, further down the road, is Roberto Heras, for me, riding the time trial of his career, Bob.
Absolutely. This is the time trial of Roberto Heras' life. He's just down on the finishing straightaway as Mancebo comes to the line. Decent time for Mancebo, 48.8 kilometer average. That is pretty darn fast on a day that's so windy. You can see down the course a little bit, Roberto Heras doing his final sprint for the line. He's still in 5th place. That's a great ride by the pure climber from the Postal team.
Comes in, clipping the barriers there. He's very, very pleased, I would suspect, with that ride. 50.1 kilometres now, nearly 32 miles an hour. Concedes a minute 32 to David Miller, but that's not his target. It'll be slightly more than that when this rider gets in, though, because the indications are now he's a minute and 5 seconds ahead of Gonzalez de Galdeano, and he can't have much more than about 3 minutes to go. So Beltran heading up towards the line, and it won't be too far back, I don't think, before we see Gonzalez de Galdeano, because I reckon he's on a 1 hour 3 minute ride, and Beltran coming in at 1:04. Then Gonzalez de Galdeano can't be that far behind.
Well, these two riders from US Postal were separated by 25 seconds, and it's still, this ride by Beltran keeps them in a very good tactical situation going into the big mountain stages to come, because they can always launch a man into a breakaway situation. That's a good ride by Beltran as he comes up to the line and stops the clock for the 9th best time. An hour and 4 minutes 39 seconds.
But right in the home straight now, he's closed right in on him. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano is now heading up to the line. He might just be a short 1 hour 3 minute ride. He will be all of that now as he comes in, and the man who's going to really set that clock on fire is still to finish now, because he's about a minute, less than a minute behind his team captain as Gonzalez de Galdeano comes home. He's hanging on here, a 5th place finish at the moment. It just shows you the quality of Heras' ride, because we expect a good ride from Galdeano. He gets the better of Roberto Heras, but only just. He looks over his shoulder, perhaps not at the clock, perhaps to see where Isidro Nozal is, where he's about 40 seconds behind him. And here he comes. He could be the only man today to get inside that 1:02 barrier. It'll be a tough call, but it'll be right on the top of the minute. And there's no doubt now that Nozal has won his 2nd time trial, and surely now has really laid the foundation for his final victory in Madrid a week on Sunday. At last now, when he's been riding in the partnership of his team captain, surely now Nozal is going to believe in himself. He might just yet beat that 1:02 ride. No, he won't. He'll go just outside, but one thing's for sure, he's won his 2nd time trial. 1:02.03. Now surely, Bob, he's going to go on and win this Tour.
That's an unbelievable ride by Isidro Nozal. You could just see it in his pedaling motion, so smooth, so powerful. Now the melee at the finish line, he is wounded in the final kilometers. He went flat out into a big headwind. That's a great ride by Nozal, and let's see if he can keep on doing the efforts that are steady in the mountains to get all the way to Madrid in that golden jersey.
When it was stage 6 and we were at Zaragoza, we said then that we didn't expect this man to be still the leader. He won the time trial there on the 6th day of the Tour. Now here we are, stage 13. He's won the time trial again, and he's very much the leader of the Tour now, and is convincing us all that he's going to carry this jersey all of the way to Madrid. He's still got some tough days ahead of him. He's got the mountain top finishes, the mountain time trial, hang on in the crosswinds, which he's had no difficulty in doing. And he doesn't ever speak about himself as being the leader of the team, never mind the leader of the Tour. But surely now Manolo Sainz is going to have to say, right, you've earned your stars, now we're all going to help you win this race. 14th day of the race now. We say goodbye to Albacete and the scene of the big time trial yesterday as we head now towards the next town at Valdepeñas. Aitor Gonzalez has decided to call it a day. He's never felt at home this year in any major stage race, and just like in the Tour de France, he is out. And there's only one previous winner left in the Tour now, Roberto Heras. Heras enjoyed his time trial yesterday, coming into third place in the overall behind Isidro Nozal, who in turn won that, and is 3:03 ahead of Gonzalez de Galliano, his team captain. Beltran slipped a little to fourth, and Francisco Mancebo very consistent there in fifth place. A bit further down, Valverde still very much in the show. Luis Perez getting what could be his finest ever finish. He's now 8th in the race. Frigo dropped away from the leaderboard a couple of days ago and did nothing to regain it yesterday. And Unai Osa in 10th. Of the American riders, it's George Hincapie flying high amongst the top 5 Americans in the race, the only 5 Americans in the race. Floyd Landis had a very good ride yesterday and he's now 58th. Levi Leipheimer, also a great ride yesterday. He's up there to 85th. With Julian Rodriguez, the other 2 riders on the result standing there. We're travelling in a westerly direction and we are picking up a tremendous tailwind. Over 51 kilometres covered in the first hour today on the road to Valdepeñas. We're down to 165 now of the 198, and 7 of the 22 teams are now all that's left intact, losing Aito Gonzalez today, the first man in the Fassa Bortolo. And 2 riders giving up so far over the weekend. Yesterday not starting the time trial, and we didn't know at the time, was Angel Casero, another winner of the Tour. We lost 2 winners in 2 days. Peter Falazan in Cofidis, and moments ago we lost Aitor Gonzalez as well. Well, we believe they're looking at 3 kilometres, but the writing is so small on these banners, we're never sure until the riders know exactly where they are. And certainly at the moment, so too do the Team Telecom boys. Now watch out for the polka dot jersey. I don't see him at the moment, but the Fassa Bortolo boys are beginning to move in on the thick of the action as well.
Moving around the outside, Fassa Bortolo want to keep it up, and looked to me as if that was 2 kilometres to go. And there's a huge acceleration coming now from Fassa Bortolo. I can't see Eric Zabel at all down there, but I feel certain he must be still in with a chance. An acceleration like that must be coming from a rider like Sergei Ivanov.
Well, Ivanov or Tzato, it is Ivanov. And I tell you what, that was a terrific jump, and he's distanced the peloton here as they're trying to reorganise themselves at the back. And this is going to be desperate moments for them now, because it is a very difficult gap to be bridged, and they might get the win on Fassa, but it might be with the rider they're not expecting, as we're looking now for 1,000 metres to go.
Telecom moving up the outside. They want to control it all. That was a long attempt there by Ivanov. He's disappearing, but the effect that it has had is to stretch out the front end of the main field. In about 10th position there, you can see a lime green jersey. That's going to be Angeledo, who rides for Milanese. He'll be looking for the win as well. On the front, Telecom back in control, but there are a lot of white jerseys. It's the Pataki train right now. There in 4th position is Eric Zabel. Right on his wheel there is Freddy Rodriguez. He's also looking for the win. 1,000 metres left to go. Pataki is up into 3rd place. Zabel is in 4th. Rodriguez in 5th.
Big lead out now by Tzato, and he'll peel off and try and move over for Pataki to take up the running here, but Zabel has got the wheel too, and there's a rush through by Alessio on the right-hand side of the road now, with Angelo Fairland trying to get on the action. Rodriguez poised in the centre there. Tom Bonan is right there too. They've got a lot of confidence with this man. A big lead out now. Bonan perfectly positioned. Hincapie there in 2nd place. Now is this the day that Hincapie is going to give us the sprint of his life? Hincapie comes, Guidi trying to take him on. Bonan coming on Hincapie, and they're going for the line, and Guidi's coming clear now with Bonan in 2nd. Hincapie, Pataki is in 4th. Here comes Alessandro Pataki with the usual run now. Nobody's going to get over Alessandro Pataki. Hincapie, and Fred Rodriguez isn't going to give up. It's 2nd for Fred, 3rd for Zabel. What a sprint that was.
Unbelievable. How does this man do it? He can lead from the front, or he can come from the confusion of 5th or 6th position behind. For a few moments, I thought he'd completely blown it. You couldn't see him. Then all of a sudden, the white jersey with the blue stripe across appears on the front end of the main field. Tom Boonen panicked a little bit, inexperienced, starting his sprint a long way out there, but there's nothing you can say, there's nothing more you can say about Alessandro Pataki. There has been a split in the main field, and I would think that all of the main leaders are in the front end of the peloton. But once again, Alessandro Pataki does it. Win number 25 this year, and this is a remarkable season for this man, which he's going to put down in his record books.
Well, he is fearsomely fast, and there's the result. Getting in behind him, Fred Rodriguez, Eric Zabel, Thomas Brun getting a place there for CSC, the Danish rider, and Tom Bonan fading there, but only as far back as 5th and holding on well. What about the big boys in the race? Well, they all watched each other, finished almost alongside each other there. The top 3, Heras, Nozal de Galliano, and Beltran and Mancebo also in the front half of the split and losing no time, because they did split time the big peloton, so they were wise to stay together. But Alessandro Petacchi now has won the stage, and it means he's gone equal on points now with Eric Zabel, who finished third. Petacchi will wear the polka dot jersey tomorrow because he has 4 stage wins to Eric Zabel's 2, and on countback it means he would win the jersey if the Vuelta were to end today. But of course it doesn't. We have exactly a week to go tomorrow. No change at all, because they all managed to hang on to each other's racing jersey in that sprint. Galdiano is second at 3:03, Heras 5:13, Beltran and Mancebo. The time gap's important now as we head to the mountains, of course. Valverde is still there too, Rasmussen. No change whatsoever in the overall classification. All of the leaders paying big attention in that finish. This man reaches higher to the sky every time he pulls on a leader's jersey. And another golden jersey for him now. And tomorrow, of course, another big test. I must say, the gentleman on the right must be a pop star. He's so well dressed. But he's giving a yellow jersey, a golden jersey, there to Nozal, who is looking more relaxed as these days go on. Of all the terrain a professional bike rider fears most, it's the high mountains. They must personify pain today, and they must be conquered by those who want to win a Grand Tour. Isidro Nozal conquered the Pyrenees. Now, can he beat the fear climb of La Padera? One thing is for sure, all will feel pain on this day. Let's have a look then at where we're going today. The riders know only too well. They've only been there once before, by the way, and that was last year. Let's hope that the mayor of the local town has remembered the key to the gates, because they have to open up the gates to allow the riders through onto this private stretch of road to the finish at Sierra de la Pandera. And as you can see, no challenges along the way. The riders again travelling fast, more than 80 kilometres already done in the day's opening 2 hours of riding. Just the second category climb, which is really the stepping stone up to the big climb itself, which finishes at a height of 1,840 metres. 165 men setting off this morning of the 198 who set off 2 weeks and 1 day ago. 7 teams remain intact of the 22, which I think is quite a large number of riders, still full complement of 9 men there. As we're watching a group of 5 riders here sprint for the points at the top of the Alto de los Vilares. Lyseca has already gone through. That's the clock counting now as the riders go over the top here. 27 seconds the gap. Now the breakaway is the King of the Mountains gets second points there, Cardenas, Daniel Atienza, Cuesta, 2 teammates from Cofidis, Mercado and Sevilla. That is the chase group. 27 seconds now behind Robert Lyseca. With the peloton, 40 seconds.
Not too far behind. In fact, they're only just 15 seconds behind the chase group. But right now, Roberto Lyseca flown the coupe for the moment, riding a solo to the summit, to the bottom, I should say, of the Sierra de la Pandera. But once he gets there, it's going to be all change in the gear ratios, because that's when it really kicks up. They've got around about 2 kilometers now of respite before they get to the start of that road up to what is or used to be an old military base. And for the majority of the year, the road is actually closed down, and once you get up there, there are 1 or 2 disused military buildings. But the 2 riders who really want to do the most impressive ride this afternoon are Manuel Beltran of US Postal and of course Roberto Heras.
Well, these boys continuing to set the pace at the front of the group here. David Miller there in second place, as 5 riders are behind a single leader. As I say, I hope the local mayor has remembered to open the gate. It's normally locked. Nobody goes to the top. But right now it's 8.3 kilometres. Once we get up there, it takes us up now to 1,840 metres. And look at the average gradient, 6.4 with a max of 15%. Could change the race quite considerably here. Bob.
It looks as if the peloton, led right now by Levi Leipheimer, have caught up to some of the guys that were in the breakaway chasing Lyseca. They haven't caught Lyseca just yet, but big tempo now coming from the group. Here's Lyseca at the front of the bike race. closing in on the final kilometers. He has a very tenuous lead right now. That'll be 10 Ks to go till the end. Levi Leipheimer having a great day out here. He loves the Tour of Spain. He's finished on the podium before. That identified him as a top contender for these Grand Tours. He's had some bad luck since then, but right now doing everything he can to help his teammate Michael Rasmussen, who sits in the top 10 on GC and has already won a stage in the mountains. There's David Miller moving up on the outside. I think everybody in the front right now speaks pretty good English.
Yeah.
Good line. Yes, definitely very good line. They probably speak
I was trying to think of a
English.
line and to say about Levi, and I couldn't get one to mind.
Well, I've got to tell you what, Levi is an incredible bike rider to bounce back, because I had a funny feeling over the first few Pyrenean stages of the Vuelta a España that he wasn't going to, in fact, get through the Vuelta a España this year. But he's hung tough. He's still in there. It's important for him to do well and ride with good condition towards the end of the season, because he needs to have a solid season next year if he's going to remain a candidate for a high finish in the overall classification of the Grand Tours. There's a big battle going on in this group behind right now, and everybody's not too worried about the position of Roberto Leiseca, who's a long way down in the overall classification. In fact, he's more than an hour and a half behind in the standings, but if he can get a stage victory at the Vuelta a España at the summit of a mountain, that will just wipe out all of the bad luck that he's had this season. In fact, he hasn't had a win to his credit so far, but amazing to see David Miller on the front here, obviously doing the team job here this afternoon. This man is hoping to ride well in the World Championships in a couple of weeks' time, when that's in Hamilton in Canada. And I think he probably would have taken a slight blow to his morale, Phil, because he thought he was going to win the time trials here very easily indeed, and he hasn't done that yet. He's been beaten by a young man who was unknown before the start of the Vuelta a España by the name now of Isidro Nozal.
Yep, and today is a big test for him, because he's still sat there. We haven't seen him do anything at all. As we're watching here, US Postal, they've just gone under the 8-kilometer banner. They're very, very close now to Roberto Leiseca, and it is going to be, I think, an attack now from Heras. They're building.
Well, look on the other side as well. Rasmussen was right there, the man who was the revelation of the Pyrenees. He's high up in the overall classification, wants to try and climb up to the podium if he can. There you can just see the orange jersey of Roberto Leiseca, not very much more than 25 meters in front of the main field. The bulk of the work right now is being done by Manuel Beltran, the teammate of Roberto Leiseca. They are all queuing up there. The orange jersey there is the leader of the King of the Mountains classification, and looking a bit further down, we're looking for the golden jersey, and there he is, just down on the left-hand side, still looking pretty comfortable, and they're going to have to do a lot if they want to crack this man here this afternoon.
He's looking under control at the minute. There's 25 riders left in this group, Bob, and quite clearly now Beltran doing the work for Heras, and then he's going to have to try. Rasmussen is poised and looking extremely dangerous there, number 167, and so too is Cardenas, and there goes the first acceleration.
Heras is going to have to follow these and match them. He's going to have to hit Nozal very hard. He has got plenty of help, and there's the catch of Leiseca. Rasmussen, Heras right on the wheel of Cardenas, as well as Luis Perez from the Cofidis team. Now we're going to have to see if Isidro Nozal can match these accelerations. He has the luxury of having 5 minutes advantage on Roberto Heras, and he can ride his own tempo all the way to the top, and you can see him there just at the bottom of the screen. This is the steepest part of the climb, and some of the riders are getting shelled off the back of the front group. That looks like Vladimir Obeli getting some damage into the legs, but Cardenas, you know he's going to attack all the way to the line, and it's Heras now that has to make the attacks, and Nozal tacked on right behind there in the perfect position to defend his jersey.
Well, Cardenas has gone again. He's not waiting for anybody. He's not too worried about the fighting for the overall classification. He wants to win here. Climbers want to win at the summits of mountains like this one, and this is becoming a very famous mountain. It's only the second time that the Vuelta a España has been here, but it already has built up quite a reputation. Leiseca just going off the back of the group there. Here you can see at the back are the men from the yellow jerseys group. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano looked to be in a spot of bother there for a moment. The golden jerseys over there on the right-hand side, and he's moving very much to the front end of this group.
Well, on says Gonzalez de Galdeano, 21, a little bit detached from his team leader at the minute. Remember, Gonzalez de Galdeano lost over 5 minutes on this climb last year, 7 kilometers to go. But I am not yet impressed by Roberto Heras. He hasn't found the strength to accelerate clear of his shadow.
Well, it's difficult nowadays at the level of the sport to come back and ride a big Grand Tour after he's done so much work for Lance Armstrong during the month of July in the Tour de France, and it's a very difficult order to try and do it again just a month and a half later. He's going to have to try and do something if he can, but I'm not sure that he does have it in his legs this afternoon. The man who's just cruising around at the front end of that peloton in the golden jersey, Isidro Nozal, is looking very comfortable. He doesn't even actually have to stay with Roberto Heras. He can just lose himself a certain amount of time, but not put himself into difficulty. This is Cuesta now having a go. Again, the pacemaking taken up behind by Manuel Beltran, immediately followed by his teammate Roberto Heras. The other revelation to me in this tour, Bob, has got to be Rasmussen, because he's all over the place.
Yes, absolutely. Michael Rasmussen closely marking the best men in the GC classification and who have been climbing so well throughout the Vuelta. Heras seems to be waiting there for the perfect moment, but Nozal has just covered everything perfectly. No panic at all throughout the Vuelta for Isidro Nozal. He was in the perfect position over the first climb of the day on the descent, and he's being cared for now by his teammates. He's right there. You can see the middle of the screen, right on the shoulder of Rasmussen, right on the wheel of his #1 rival, Roberto Heras.
As Santos Gonzalez, last the Domina Vacanti team, hanging on, still has a high position. Race referee trying to keep things a little bit orderly there, but he's going to lose control if he's not careful. There's too many motorbikes near the riders, especially with these fearsome accelerations by the climbers, and then the others come back. There's no one big icon that can crack this field, Bob. That's the thing. That's the difference between this and the Tour de France.
Well, last year, if we recall Roberto Heras's performance on this climb, he went from just about the bottom where it was very steep with almost 8 kilometers to go and just continued throughout the climb to put time on his rivals. We're getting close to 5Ks to go, and he's still right in there with the current gold jersey of race leader, so doesn't seem to have the legs so far on this climb. He's going to have to do something very explosive in the last few kilometers. Beltran is still there, trying to weaken Nozal a little bit, but so far no cracks in the armor of Isidro Nozal.
I think what's more impressive is what Phil just said, is that there's such a large group together in this field here. This looked like Del Olmo having a go right now. He's trying to keep himself high up in the overall classification. He really has been quite a surprise in this year's bike race, and he is taking advantage now of the marking of the men who are in the top 10 in the overall classification. Del Olmo 18th at the start of today's stage.
Interesting little rider this. He's got a lot of power in his body when he comes to the uphills, and good acceleration from him. There'll be no reaction to chase him down in particular. There's the road above his head right now, as it looks like a Cofidis rider has gone well. I don't think it's Perez, but I don't think it's Cuesta either, so we'll have a look when we get down there. Might be Atienza again, but there you can see how the road twists. No, it is in fact Cuesta who's gone again. Now he's looking very cool on the climbs just now.
Looking solid, chasing Del Olmo right now, both of them chasing Cardenas, who said he wanted to win a mountain stage when he came into the Vuelta, one of the great climbers of cycling today, and now he really wants to win the Pandera. It's probably his last best chance to win a stage. We have one more huge mountain, the Sierra Nevada, but this one is really the steep, pure climber's climb, and it looks like the Once still having fantastic control over the peloton, and Isidro Nozal in the golden jersey perfectly placed right there in the front of the first line in the front group.
Well, if Roberto Heras wants to win the Vuelta a Espana for a second time, he really has to do something today, doesn't he, Bob? Because, yes, Sierra Nevada tomorrow or the day after tomorrow is a very difficult climb, but the gradient is the kind of gradient that will suit riders like Isidro Nozal. Roberto Heras, on his form and on his day, really can take advantage of the very steep climbs where a climber can accelerate, put in an unbelievable acceleration, but he doesn't seem to have it right now, and I wonder if, having done a brilliant time trial a couple of days ago, if that's actually hurt his body a bit.
Well, just seeing how what the advantage is when you've got a strong team. These two riders on the front for Once are actually backing the pace off now to give Nozal as much respite as possible. This is not going the way of a rider like Roberto Heras. He's got to lift the pace because they're never going to beat this rider if they allow him time to recover on a climb like this.
Well, I'm so surprised to see such a huge group still very much together, but this man doesn't worry about any of that. He's flown the coupe, he's on his own at the moment, and I think his advantages are still hovering at around about 30 seconds. Felix Cardenas, a stage winner in the Tour de France, and in fact this year second overall in the Tour of Colombia, which is a very difficult stage race to ride, and it really is a race that his specialist climbers need to do well in.
Beginning to look like a winner now, but at last Roberto Heras is about to test the yellow jersey.
Well, he's gone out on the attack and he's seen the yellow jerseys having a spot to bother. This is Del Olmo. He was in between the two. The man who actually started the acceleration here was Michael Rasmussen, but he seems to have been blown away right now. This is the chaos at the top of one of these big mountains in the Tour of Spain. For the moment, Roberto Heras has put the yellow jersey into difficulty, but he's not really going to open the time gaps that he thought he would do. Those motorbikes really need to get out of the way right now because they're slightly falsifying the race. There's the yellow jersey. He's got to survive right now. He's just got to get himself into some kind of rhythm and just make sure he doesn't lose too much time.
I think he's in trouble. That's the first time we've seen Nozal in difficulty. Remember, this is a much steeper climb than we've seen in the previous Pyrenean climbs. He is actually riding sensible, Bob. He knows he can limit his losses here. He's not going to lose the Tour today.
Well, Heras opened up a big gap there, waited to the very steepest part of this climb, 4Ks to go. You can see that he's not panicked. He's still steady. He's got a solid rhythm going, but Heras is flying up the mountain right now. He caught Del Olmo like no problem at all. De Galdiano, they're further back down the mountain with Tricky Beltran. They're chasing with Luis Perez, but as we go further up the road, in a while we'll get to Roberto Heras, who's now put in a major acceleration. Only Mercado being able to match that from the front group. He blew away Rasmussen immediately, and we'll see what kind of damage that Heras can do, and if this man, Isidro Nozal, can limit the damage. Now, he seems to be riding a very good race, so he has 5 minutes in hand, and Heras is trying his best to put in as much time as possible from here on to the finish.
This is where you need experience. This is where he needs a good man alongside him just to talk him through a crisis situation like this. It's not a major panic for him. He leads Roberto Heras by 5 minutes and 13 seconds. But what Roberto Heras could be doing today is moving himself up towards second place. He's only just outside of 2 minutes behind Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano. There's the man who led, and just behind you can see Roberto Heras coming through the crowds, and he's closing the gap down very rapidly to Felix Cardenas. 14 seconds, but it's only 17 seconds back to Isidro Nozal, so he's still holding it fairly well.
He's not going to concede a lot, and he's riding sensibly because he was actually beginning to pull away from Santos Gonzalez there. Here he is now. Gonzalez recovered a little bit to hook up again with Nozal. We've come to know this guy over the last 2 weeks, and we know he will not give up without an extreme fight. He's got into the art of suffering. He knows he's got time on his side, and he's not going to make a fool of himself by making a huge effort and then blowing up and losing maybe a minute. He's just riding very, very sensible. He knows that the odds are that Heras will only take 40 seconds at the most as he jumps away from Osa. He's now heading up towards the leader, and this could be a repeat victory for Roberto Heras on the top, but it's not going to be a huge time gap, I don't think.
Well, I tell you what, the one thing you have to say about Roberto Heras, Bob, is he is an absolutely magical climber. He's not panicked at all. He's obviously not got the legs of great days here right now, but still he is proving once again he is one of the greatest climbers in the world. This is a very difficult climb as we go inside 3 kilometers to go right now. We're looking here at gradients of approaching 15%, and Heras now back in control in the mountains.
Cardenas had 36 seconds lead with just 5 kilometers to go, and Roberto Heras wiped that out after his accelerations with I think it only took him about 800 meters to close a 36-second gap onto one of the best climbers in the world. So here's Alejandro Valverde a little bit further down. They've caught up to Unai,
yeah.
And Sevilla there, still with good legs, pacing his teammate Valverde. They're closing in on Cardenas, or trying to close in on Cardenas, and Roberto Heras is going away. Here's a couple of Domina Vacanze riders, and you can see that Once rider, we haven't seen De Galdiano for a while, and it looks like they're passing up the race leader, and Isidro Nozal now in some big trouble. Now the gap is widening up. It's 35 seconds right now.
And that's just tagged onto the back of a very select group who have now come past Isidro Nozal, having seen he's in trouble. And he might recover. He needs a second deep breath right now because this is on the steep part of the climb. Now, Cardenas has not thrown in the towel here. He's hooked up with Roberto Heras. Has he got the legs to answer yet another fierce acceleration coming from this little Spanish rider, who is an absolutely brilliant climber? He's got all the body weight. 136 pounds is all he weighs, and that is a great advantage on a mountain like this. You switch to somebody like Nozal, you can see, I think both his feet probably weigh 136 pounds.
He wears size 12 shoes anyway. He's a very big bike rider, but he's using all of his courage right now. He's losing time, but he mustn't lose faith because it doesn't matter. He's 5 minutes ahead of Roberto Heras at the start of the day. He's riding himself back in, and he's only actually got about 1.5 kilometers 1.5 left, a very difficult climb because it actually levels out and actually goes slightly downhill before the summit finish here.
Marco Serrano there, the other Once rider, has seen the trouble that Nozal is in, caught back up to him, and now is trying to pace him back into that little group with Tricky Beltran.
There's Valverde. In fact, he's closing in on Roberto Heras with Oscar Sevilla, so he's doing a brilliant ride. 23 years of age. Let's not forget, I think it was Phil that said earlier on he thought that Valverde was going to win at the top of this stage. I thought he was joking.
Well, I was. Well, we're getting up to the dizzy heights of 1,800 meters above sea level right now. Here is Valverde. This is the benefit, Bob, of having a strong teammate like Sevilla to help you when you need him.
Well, absolutely, Kelme looking for a stage win here, looking for Valverde to get some more time. He lost a lot of time on the flat time trial. He is a climber, and Nozal now is getting close to 1 minute. That magical barrier we thought he needed about 1.5 minutes is starting to become a reality. Nozal turning himself inside out, hauling those size 12 boots up this mountain, trying to limit the damage to one of the greatest climbers in the world. This is a steep part, and look at him suffering there on the wheel of his teammate. On the other hand, you have Roberto Heras absolutely flying up the mountain, a real magician of the pedals in the dizzying heights of the mountains. Going up, each pedal stroke, Roberto Heras is getting another couple of tenths of a second.
Got to go back to what Johan Brunel said. He felt that Roberto Heras could get himself about 1.5 minutes on a stage like this. Johan Brunel really seems to know his bike riders intimately, just the knowledge of exactly what they've got in their bodies and exactly what they've got in their legs at that moment in time. We're up to around about the 1 minute mark. It's going to bring Roberto Heras up to 4 minutes behind. It's still a huge deficit, but if you can do something like this again in a couple of days' time on the Sierra Nevada, this bike race is far from over.
And the time trial to follow, of course, which is a mountain time trial this year.
11 kilometers uphill, that time trial on the day before the race finishes in Madrid. And look at that big gap now down the road there. You can't see anybody else coming round there. We're going further back, and one man who I've not seen for too long either is Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano.
Yeah, he's in this group here, and he's the man, of course, that Heras now is aiming at, because he's looking at second place first of all, then he'll look at first. And he's probably taking 2 minutes out of him here.
Well, this is the big thing for Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano to do right now. He needs to look after his teammates. He's the man with the experience. He's got to nurture this young man. He's got to encourage him. He's got to coax him over the next kilometre or so just to make sure he doesn't panic, because if his mind goes, he'll find himself losing 2 or 3 minutes. But his teammate will be uttering small words of encouragement just to keep him in contact, to stop him from cracking psychologically in these last couple of kilometres.
Well, if he concedes just over a minute here, Bob, and he loses a minute on the Sierra Nevada, another minute in the time trial, he'll still win the race.
Absolutely, and that's what Once is doing right now. Serrano and de Galdiano doing everything they can with their experience to help Nozal be calm, collect himself, limit the damage to these two men who are working very well together. I think that Heras will get some time, and Cardenas has the advantage now of not worrying about GC. He can sit on the wheel of Roberto Heras and get him in the sprint for the stage. Both of those riders stand to gain quite a bit today, and this man is trying desperately to stay on the wheel of his teammate, and it's now de Galdiano who's doing such a good job for his team leader at the moment, the golden jersey of Isidro Nozal.
This is what they say in the sport of cycling, Phil. This is a Grand Seigneur. What Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano is doing right now is what Aitor Gonzalez and Oscar Sevilla could not do last year. He's making sacrifices. He could actually lose his second place in the overall classification, but he wants his teammate to win, which is why he's staying there with him and encouraging him over these final difficult kilometres.
Well, it's all over, near enough now. Now to question Heras, really has got to think about winning, and being the only man ever to have won at the top of this climb, he still wants time. He's going to have to carry on. Cardenas was really upset when he lost the big climb into Andorra on the Envalira there. He'd like to make his name on this climb, and he'll sit here and try to jump Heras as they approach the line, while Roberto must race all of the way to the line and gain every second, because it could be crucial now. Back to Oscar Sevilla, doing relentless pacemaking here for Alejandro Valverde. Valverde also suffering a little bit, but gaining time as well over a lot of his rivals. Gonzalez Galdiano, I hadn't realised he was riding alongside the Golden Jersey until we just seen him down there, so he's not losing as much time as I thought, and it looks like at the end of the day, Paul, times will change. Valverde now has done and says thanks a lot, Oscar. He's going to go, or I'm not so sure he is actually.
It hurts this climb. It's very deceptive. You think you've come to the flatter part of the course, and watch out for the experience of Oscar Sevilla, because he's been here, he's been to the Tour de France, he's been to this race on many occasions. I think there was a bit of youthful enthusiasm there, because Valverde thought he was going to leap across a 10-second gap to two of the greatest climbers in the world, and you don't do that quite that easily, especially when you're only 23 years of age.
Well, this man who has become from the team domestique to the protected rider has now got two very famous Once riders nursing him up this climb. It's 1 kilometre to go for Heras and Cardenas, but that'll be a lovely sign when the race leader gets to it.
We'll have to see how much time he's lost. He's done a great job. He's been well cared for by his teammates, both Serrano and De Galdeano, who, like you said, Paul, is in danger of losing even more time, for his second place is a lot more tenuous than Nozal's. But now finally we see Once throwing all of their resources at the man most capable of winning this Vuelta a Espana, Isidro Nozal.
Well, they shouldn't. They should have done it a few days ago. They should have done it a week ago to look after this man, keep him protected, but maybe they weren't quite sure how he was going to perform. The two leaders now, the slight downhill, and it's going to be a very tricky finish. You can see Valverde there just in company still with Oscar Sevilla, the flatter partner. It kicks up just slightly up towards the finish line. It's going to be a very strange sprint finish, supposedly at the top of a mountain.
Well, Cardenas wants this, and he's going to try and get it now. Heras has moved him up into first place. I'm not sure that's a good idea, because Roberto is a real fighter. He's a real scrapper when it comes to a finish like this, and I think he still might have it in those legs. Felix Cardenas has made a mistake, I think, going up into the lead, because here comes the rush right over the top now, and right behind him, coming with a flyer, is Alejandro Valverde. What a finish this is going to be. Could be a real shock here. I don't think Cardenas knows yet as they hit this corner here, shoulder to shoulder. Well, I guess I was right at the end, because Valverde is going to take this from absolutely nowhere as he comes to the front. Now, Bob, he's pulled that one out of the blue.
He did the same thing literally up in Andorra, and he's come through again. Heras had no idea where he had came from. He looked over his shoulder and he said, "Who is this?" It was Alejandro Valverde getting the stage, well helped by his teammate Oscar Sevilla. Now let's count back down the mountain and see when the group of Nozal comes in. Here's the second group on the road. Nozal is not in there. He's a little bit further back, but he does have two of his teammates, and look at them chasing now. There is a Nozal group flaming down the mountain to the finish, and it's going to kick up a little bit. Here's a Rasmussen group led by Tricky Beltran.
So Beltran now, Santos Gonzalez going to have a little go there on the wheel of Michael Rasmussen, who was a star of one stage in the Pyrenees. He's still up in the mix here. Santos Gonzalez, so remember, he was up with the Nozal at one stage. Nozal fell away from that. It's a tricky old finish this if you don't get your sprinting right. Perez also going up on the inside. Now he's coming up towards the line, but Gonzalez is keeping his gears low, and he's just about going to win that one. So he'll go over, I think it's fifth place there for Gonzalez. The clock continues to count. This is crucial. 1
minute so far, and as definitely as our friend Sean Yates would say, a very dodgy finish, and this should be, as we look at the winner there, it's a pity we pulled away, because there is the golden jersey coming in somewhere towards the back of this group, right on the wheel of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. 1 minute and 14 seconds.
So that's right, minute 13, minute 14, the clock has stopped, so Nozal has conceded that to Roberto Heras today. It will not alter the top four riders in the overall classification. Valverde has won the stage. He'll increase his lead in that blue, well, he might get the lead in the blue jersey competition now, because he was only borrowing that blue jersey from this rider here, Isidro Nozal. Yes, and that inspired finish by Alejandro Valverde means he's won the second big mountain stage of this year's Tour. Let's have a look at it again. There he is, coming up at very high speed, and I think Paulie's got to thank really his teammate Oscar Sevilla for getting him into this position.
He certainly has. He tried a couple of times to get across, and I wasn't sure he had the legs, but when he got into the last 300 meters, he made contact with the two leaders, and it's amazing to see such an incredible sprint, Bob, at the top of a mountain like that.
Bang! Gumby Boy came out of nowhere like a bolt of lightning from a clear blue sky, hit Heras and Cardenas when they weren't even expecting anybody to come up, and came up with a great stage win, his second for the Kelme team. Great ride by Alejandro Valverde.
And that was his 7th victory of the season. It's his second season as a pro. He won no races last year, so he's having a wonderful second season, isn't he? This is how he did. You just have a look at the faces of the other two, because they don't know where this thunderbolt came from. He crashed his way through like a bulldozer, hit the front, and he hit them at exactly the right time. He was running on pure adrenaline here, and it was a very clear win for him, and I think it might give him that blue jersey for a while longer, because he's not been the leader in that competition. He's only been riding on loan from Nozal. Here he is, a very happy young man on top of a mountain top, as he was in Andorra quite a while ago now. taking the prizes of the day. I think we can have a look now at the stage results. Alexander Valverde and the Kelme boys. It's going to mean very happy reading again. He gets the victory. Same time, of course, as Cardenas. Heras sitting up and losing 2 seconds in the sprint. Oscar Sevilla, he punched the sky as well. It was a moral victory for him. He crossed the line in 4th place. And Miguel Perdiguero, they're saying, was there in 5th. Perez in 6th place. Rasmussen doing very well again in the mountain top finish 7th. Tricky Beltran coming in 8th. The top 10 there completed by Unai Osa. Looking a bit further down, Mancebo finished 11th. It'll probably cost him a place in the overall classification though. Scarponi in 12th. And right down to the 15th place man, significant, that is this man here, Isidro Nozel. He conceded just over 70 seconds of his lead to Roberto Heras. Let's have a look at that now. Still in 2nd place, same time because they finished together, is his teammate Galdiano. Heras closes in, but he's still at 4 minutes and 2 seconds. Time very definitely running out for Roberto here. Beltran holds 4th. Alejandro Valverde now completes our top 5 with his win today at 6:37. Mancebo does indeed drop down 1 place to 6th. Rasmussen still there. All of these names still here. Santos Gonzalez there in 10th, and I think you'll find he actually finished in the results as well. There he is. I think it's a smile. It's always hard to tell, but this young man feeling extremely tired after his climb up. But later on, I think he'll feel a very happy man. It's a big day he can now put behind him. We saw the sprint of Eric Zabel down at the bottom of the climb today in Jaén, and as a result of that, those 4 points were indeed important. It's given him the polka dot jersey back over Alessandro Battacchi on the eve of their 2nd rest day. We're looking out across the Sierra Nevada now, 2,000 kilometers in excess of the Vuelta Espana has covered. We're in our final week. We are back in the saddle, and still that man is in the golden jersey, Isidro Nozel. George Hincapie of the United States, after he finished 2 days ago, he decided enough was enough. It was time now to prepare for the World Championships in Canada. He has good form. I think he wants to hang on to the strength he's got. So that's has George gone. The other 4 riders, Levi Leipheimer is now best of them. Climbing steadily, he was once 150th in this race. He's now 73rd. Floyd Landis, Bobby Julich and Freddie Rodriguez, the 4 remaining Americans there in the race itself. Right, let's have a look at the map itself and see where we're off to today. This, of course, is now stage 16 of the race, or stage 15, no, 16, as we go from Jaén to Sierra Nevada. It's a stage of just over 100 miles, but of course the big teeth is at the far end of the course. We've been over the Fuensanta climb already. Unai Echeverria outsprinted his namesake David Echeverria there, but there's only a small breakaway of 2 riders clear at the moment, Diaz and Taula, and the latest gap we're getting is around about 8 minutes, so they've really given them a run at the mountain. Now, this morning, with the loss of George Hincapie and indeed of Vladimiro Belli also gone, 163 of the riders remain of the 198, and the team's intact now, 6 of the 22, as we head off towards the last week of the race. There's the 2 non-starters just confirmed there. George Hincapie went home after the race ended 2 days ago, and Vladimiro Belli also called it a day as well. Bit surprised about the Lampre rider dropping out. He was reasonably well up overall, top 40 place. And we're looking here at Roberto Heras, still has not found how to get rid of the golden jersey, sitting right behind him here. There are now 7 riders forming, just over 40 seconds behind Diaz. Sevilla, Mercado, Cardenas and Atienza has been joined now by Valverde, Del Olmo and Piepoli. And we could visibly see that Oscar Sevilla was waiting for the arrival of Alejandro Valverde, and he's now there.
Well, you can see the reason he did that was because he was not very happy with the position of the orange jersey, the leader of the King of the Mountains, Felix Cardenas. And not only, I think you said earlier, Phil, Felix Cardenas, he's not only lost a couple of stages because he refused to work, I think he's also probably lost quite a few friends as well. And the one thing in the sport of professional cycling, and I think Bob will agree with me on this, is you cannot afford to make enemies, because it's quite easy to make a bloke lose a race.
I had a few, but I try to make more friends than enemies, and Cardenas not making very many friends at all in the breakaway, and you do need allies when you go on these breakaways. They're about to catch our erstwhile leader on the road, who's been out there for 130 kilometers. If he can hang on, it would be a miracle. I think they'll shell Diaz Lobato immediately, but this is a very strong little breakaway. They got a solid lead on the peloton that's right now led by the Once team. You can see them right there. De Galdiano in third position, being led by Marcos Serrano there, and one of the Domina Vacance riders, Martin Perdiguero. And we'll see Raiko Rasmussen a little bit further down, and Luis Perez, and the gold jersey just tucked in there with Roberto Heras just a little ways down. Heras has got to attack. It's not the type of climb that suits his talents, but he has to throw caution to the wind and try to attack anyways. At least put a little bit of pressure on the leader. 52 seconds now to Valverde's group. They're just behind the breakaway, and the leader is, of course, Isidro Nozal. Heras has to do everything he can to put some pressure on Isidro Nozal, but so far it's all Once. They have 4 guys still in the front group, and that's quite an impressive accomplishment.
Well, excuse me. Well, just thinking, Paul, that Valverde here now is currently climbing into 5th place over Mancebo, so there's got to be a counter-attack coming from him soon.
Well, in fact, he's also approaching the position, I think, of Manuel Beltran as well, because he's not too far behind him. So he's the guy making a good operation this afternoon. If they're not careful, he may well be the major surprise on this stage. And this man here is just thinking, I think, about getting this mountain stage behind him, because the leader, Isidro Nozal, was put in a spot of difficulty in the early part of the climb, but he never panicked. He had his teammates around him to pull him back into contact with men like Roberto Heras. The man who really sacrificed an awful lot earlier on was Manuel Beltran, because he set an unbelievable tempo and followed that up with lots of attacks from varying riders from so many different teams. I thought that was going to be the end then for that leader, Isidro Nozal, as we come up here to 10 kilometers to go. And there is the lone leader, still surviving by not very much more than 15 seconds. And then it's a further 55 seconds back to the group of Isidro Nozal. A couple of kilometers to go, and around about 8 kilometers to go, it's when the gradient starts to kick in, and we might see a few more attacks coming if Roberto Heras has got the legs today.
Well, obviously the first flurry of attacks did not work out the way Heras had planned. They're still riding alongside one another, so now he's going to probably wait and recover and hit them in the last 6 or 7 kilometers and just see what happens. There he is, licking his lips in anticipation, or perhaps he just needs a drink. But either way, so far this race has not gone the way of Roberto Heras, the winner of the race in the year 2000. He's in a group of about 20 riders here, and the one man around him is the golden jersey. He's got first and second. The one man gaining most here, number 98, Alejandro Valverde. There is the catch. So Pedro Diaz has come back now into a group making 8 riders, at least for the moment. Looks as though Diaz Lobato just has a little extra kick. He looks cool. Maybe he's been saving just a little bit to go with the front group when it came up. Well, now's his big chance. He certainly deserves something, because he's ridden very, very well today in that original breakaway of 14 riders, which escaped after 32 kilometers. Here we are now, just 10 or so kilometers from the finish, and he's still in the front group.
It's going to get a lot more difficult quite shortly, though, because we come up to the steeper part of this climb. 52 seconds separating the front of the bike race from the group of the leader. And in fact, this move will be putting Valverde up towards a possibility of a 4th place finish in the Vuelta a Espana right now, because he started the day not too far behind Manuel Beltran. There is Beltran really digging deep and looking for all kinds of courage to stay in contact, because he's done a lot of work for his team leader here this afternoon. It's one of the last chances for Roberto Heras to try and dislodge the man in the golden jersey. Heras starting in 3rd place in the overall classification this afternoon, and he really has to do something special. It would be a good idea for him to try and leapfrog across to this group once he gets to the steeper part of the course. And there is Diaz, and he didn't have enough left in those legs to stay in contact with this group, which is being ripped to pieces by Oscar Sevilla.
Well, we're just watching the clock tick through there at 9 kilometers, Bob. It's said about Diaz, but this is a classic move now, and it's worked out according to plan for the riders on the Kelme squad.
A very good tactical maneuver there by Sevilla to wait because of the non-cooperation by Cardenas, the rider. There is Diaz Lobato being dropped from the breakaway. Long break, great for publicity for his squad, one of the smaller teams in the bike race. He's going to slide a long ways down the mountain while our 7 guys in the front are really making a huge tempo, led by the Kelme tandem of Alejandro Valverde, who was able to catch up when Sevilla waited. Didn't want to cooperate without a teammate, towing Cardenas all the way to the line. That would be a bit of a disaster. So he asked for Valverde to be sent forward. Valverde had the legs to attack. He's been climbing fabulously. He's won 2 stages already, Alejandro Valverde has, and able to make the junction to Sevilla. Now that's a very strong duo.
All right, 59 seconds at 9 kilometers to go, so they are actually coming back because they were out to 1 minute 10, but that was based on the leader on the road, who has now been caught and dropped.
I think they will see some very hard attacks coming from the group just behind our leaders here. Cardenas trying to match the accelerations of the Kelme riders, and now the attacks are starting to come. They're trying to isolate the riders behind, and Cardenas is trying to close the gap each time. Either Valverde or Sevilla attack from the Kelme squad. Sevilla. Now Valverde will sit on for a moment, and when they catch him, he'll probably go. So Kelme really on a mission to win the stage today.
Well, I tell you what, Felix Cardenas there in the orange jersey is certainly not making any friends at all in this group, and it's in fact going to be Mercado who'll go this time.
Well, they're going to have to chase him now because he's just the quality of the rider who could win this stage. He waited for Oscar Sevilla to make his move and then played his card. Valverde, I don't think, will risk an attack at this moment. He's protecting a possible rise in this race up to 4th overall. And I think he'll try to make better use of gaining time rather than just trying to win the day. That is rather a large gap he suddenly opened up.
He opened up a great gap there, and Cardenas is on the front now. It doesn't seem like he's quite as motivated to close the gap to up to the rider from the Benesto team, Mercado. Maybe it's because he used to race for Kelme and has a little bit of animosity against the team. Alberto Martinez now coming out of the pack, 51 seconds behind, so they took 10 seconds out of those riders in the last kilometer. This race is most certainly not over. Once still on the front. They've done a great stage. That's Marcos Serrano setting the tempo for the last 10 kilometers.
On the attack here.
Who's my friend?
Robert Lyseca.
No, that wasn't Lyseca. That's Martinez.
Alberto Martinez, yes.
I beg your pardon.
And there is Eras, right? And that's exactly where Nozal needs to keep himself, just on the wheel of Eras. But Eras needs to start attacking now very hard with everything that he has left.
Well, Mercado, when he came to this race with success in 2001, a stage win and a 5th place overall, we were talking about him then as a future winner of the Vuelta. Hasn't quite worked out for him yet, but he has had a win this year in the Dauphiné, as they're now trying to sort it out from this group here. But this infighting and countering each other moves is going to result in a catch.
Well, it's quite strange as well, because there's 1 Colombian in the breakaway and 6 Spaniards, and I think, well, 1 Italian, I should say, as well, because Pipoli, although he's ridden for Benesto for many, many years, is actually an Italian. They obviously, I think, are trying to bury the hatchet here, aren't they, Bob? Because they certainly are trying to give him a run for his money. Not happy at all by the fact that he continues to sit on and won't collaborate with the pacemaking. And
Piepoli now is going to be the best ally that Mercado could have. He will measure all the attacks now coming from this group. The Kelme riders will have to reorganize and perhaps use a little bit different strategy. Now they're going to be chasing, and it'll be Piepoli sitting on their chase. Cardenas seems to have come to the front now, and he's chasing Valverde. It's starting to get very competitive here. We're going to see the gap to the peloton from this group and see if anybody can try to get across. It was Euskaltel Euskadi's Alberto Martinez. The last time we looked down the hill, he was trying to get across, but he was easily matched by Marcos Serrano of the Once team.
Valverde getting second in that sprint, Paul. If he wins the stage, he gets the polka dot jersey, the points.
Very good move by him to get that 2 points, and that'll bring him just a little bit closer. And yes, if he does win the stage this afternoon, he will take the lead in the points classification by a single point from Herr Zabel, who at the moment is currently leading that competition with 135 points.
Now then, there's going to be an explosion from the back. It might be coming straight away, because this looks like a rejuvenated Manuel Beltran, who is now trying to launch yet another attack. They've gone through the losing ground at the moment on the leader on the road. 109 now at that checkpoint. And still this group is sticking together like a little bunch of limpets. And I think they're running out of time, and I think they're showing us that they haven't quite got the power required to break the golden jersey.
Well, they tried at the very bottom of the climb, and I tell you what, it's very rare to see so many attacks in the first few kilometres of a climb that's going to last 30 kilometres in length, 18 miles from the top, from bottom to top. And the golden jersey really has done everything to defend his position. There's still a few chances left. Beltran, I think, just trying to pick up the pace a bit, because he realises he's got a chance there of losing his place in the overall classification to Valverde, who is in the group in front.
Well, the way they hit the bottom of the climb, all the teams attacking, they could not possibly have kept that sort of pressure up. They had to take a respite somewhere, and it's been midway up the climb. Rasmussen is still highly dangerous there in the centre for Rabobank. Is still a possibility. The breakaway is certainly reachable right now, Bob, at 61 minutes, but I really think that sooner or later the golden jersey himself might actually come to the front. He's looking stronger as he grows in confidence now, because when he was hit at the bottom he must have been rather depressed that so many riders were attacking him, but he survived. And as these kilometre banners go by now, he is going to gather his confidence and is going to think perhaps of even getting himself a good finish. One thing's for sure, he's going to thank his teammates for the way they're climbing today.
Heras has put in a very serious attack here as the gradient really starts to kick in here as we get towards the summit of the Sierra Nevada. So too as Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. He's having a spot of bother, and I wonder if this is the time to remind everybody that it was on the slopes of this climb about a year and a half ago that Once had a very difficult time. They lost a lot of their lead, and right now the man who's in the lead in the golden jersey is really asking his teammates to pace him back up to Roberto Heras. Roberto Heras has Michael Rasmussen there for company, and you know, just a few moments ago we were waiting for something to happen, and it was really going to come from the man by the name of Roberto Heras, because he knew that as it started to kick in, he moved from the front of the peloton. He was so confident that this was the steeper part of the climb. And look at the Once riders just looking down to check the gears. And I can tell you one thing, whatever gear you're in when Roberto Heras attacks, it certainly does start to hurt. And for the first time, we're now seeing the golden jersey in a spot of bother.
Well, Bob, it's all up to Heras. I don't think he can get the time required, but if he can take some time, he'll live to fight another day.
Yes, absolutely. There's a time gap to Heras, perhaps 22 seconds. They've just swept up Atienza. Rasmussen doing quite well to get onto Heras's wheel, and he's really making his move now to get a little bit closer to the golden jersey of race leadership. Nozal has ridden so well. Marcos Serrano is still there trying to pace him. Atienza has pulled the plug and detonated. He's going backwards, but Roberto Heras now is flying up this mountain. He's waited to the perfect moment to attack on the mountain that's very gradual, and in sections it's quite steep, and he's used that steep section to get this gap now. Nozal in third position there, just holding on to the wheels. Marcos Serrano, who's trying to set the tempo and limit the damage being done by Roberto Heras right now.
Santos Gonzalez just in front of him. He doesn't need to panic right now. All he needs to do is just make sure he doesn't lose too much time. And if Roberto Heras cracks towards the summit, he can pull himself back into this race. He's got, let's not forget, 4 minutes in hand over Roberto Heras. And that's the one thing that a good team manager should be able to tell him. Don't panic, just ride sensibly, because you're not going to lose the Vuelta a Espana in the next few kilometers. But if you panic, you certainly could lose a lot more time than 2 or 3 minutes.
Lance Armstrong was placed in a similar situation when Jan Ullrich hit him on the Col de Juplin in the Alps once, and Johan Daniel was very quick to remind Lance of his time advantage and not to panic, and I think that's exactly what Sainz will be saying to his man at the moment. But there comes Atienza. He's back in the fold, and he's seeing the yellow jersey, the golden jersey as they call it in this race, coming up now, and he's going to try and take a deep breath and hope he can hang on, because this is very fine tempo riding being done to keep this man right in the picture. It looks like Serrano setting the pace there as the road kicks up yet again, but with every pedal rev he's knocking out the meters.
Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano is not in that group, so he really does risk losing his second place in the overall classification this afternoon to Roberto Heras. Heras wanted to chip away at the lead of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano and of course Isidro Nozal. He needs to do this every time the race goes uphill between here and Madrid if he wants to have a chance of winning this bike race for a second time. The time gaps that he's opening up here are not all that great, but if he can take another minute today, there's another mountain stage left to come. And then we've got an uphill mountain time trial. So this race really could go down to the final time trial just before the eve of the race into Madrid.
At the moment, about 15 seconds is the gap between Rasmussen and Heras and the golden jersey. 31 to the leaders, I think, at the moment, as the clock started with the first riders through, didn't it?
I thought they started with Heras and
Did they?
Rasmussen, and
Okay,
it looks like
right.
Nozal is having a little bit of trouble following the pace set by Marco Serrano. And look at the tempo that Roberto Heras now is putting into the bike race. Fantastic ride here. His teammates working so hard at the bottom of the mountain to set this move up, and now Heras is trying to follow through on that and punctuate a big day in the mountains for the U.S. Postal. Best climber perhaps in the world, most scintillating when it's very steep, and not a climb that suits him, but he's not letting that worry him, and he's trying everything to get away from Isidro Nozal, who's having a little bit of a hard time now. I'm sure Nozal would love to claw his way back. He mustn't panic, like we've said, and just ride a good, steady rhythm. He would still have quite a bit of time in hand, but now the gap's gone out to just over 3 minutes. Here's 2Ks. I think we'll see that that's our leaders down on the road.
There's 5 riders there, so I think that Mercado must still be out front, and we haven't caught up with him yet at 2 kilometers to go. He might have played the card that will win the day. There are the 2 chasers of Heras and Rasmussen, and there is the next group on the road. It is going to be not a big game, whichever way you look at it today, for Roberto Heras, but he didn't have the legs at the base of the climb to get clear of the group.
But the important thing is just to keep chipping away. He needed to pull himself back just around about the 1 minute over Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, and I'm actually pretty sure he's done that for the moment. But the important thing right now, look at the way this man is using his teammate. Isidro Nozal is just sitting on the wheel of Marco Serrano there. He will be pulling his body inside out right now. He's probably suffering more than he's ever suffered before in his life, because he realizes the challenges are coming right here. Look at Serrano trying to encourage him, trying to get the concentration back into his pedaling style.
Well, sorry about the pictures, but up here at the heights, it's atmospherics obviously affecting the signal. We'll stay with it. The clock is working at least. There's Levi Leipheimer, about 37 seconds spread here as they go around the far bend. But as they continue towards the top, these are not the gains that Roberto Heras really did hope for today. They launched those savage attacks at the bottom, and for a while the golden jersey was up to it.
The golden jersey followed as long as he could. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano is in danger of losing his second place position. It looks like Cardenas now is trying to close the gap down to Mercado, who's just up in that cluster of cars, and it looks like Cardenas, the man sitting on the Kelme tandem, is saved just enough energy to try to close the gap, but I guarantee you that Valverde and Sevilla will be chasing desperately along with Piepoli to catch Felix Cardenas.
He's come across that gap pretty smartish though, Bob, because just in front of that small group of motorbikes and a single car there, you can see Mercado. Cardenas is probably around about 10-15 meters behind right now, but he's literally visibly going a lot quicker than the Spaniard who's led this bike race for the last 4 or 5 kilometers.
Well, here we are now seeing Juan Miguel Mercado. Hasn't won a race since June when he won the 6th stage of the Dauphiné race in France. The clock is counting. 6 seconds, 5 seconds for Cardenas, who is now trying to latch on and stop the run of second places in the mountains. As we pull back, though, the big chase is on, of course. These are the 4 riders left of the breakaway. None are affecting the golden jersey, although Valverde himself is going to tighten the grip in the top placings of the race. He's in that group. Here's the man who launched a scintillating attack lower down, and he's still in with a great chance. Now, he won the 5th stage of the Vuelta in September 2001, and he's never won a stage of this race since.
Well, in fact, he's going to have a hard time winning here, because look at that return there coming from Cardenas, picking his way through the cars around the television motorbike there, and he's right onto the tail of Mercado. Cabeza de la Carrera, this is the front end of the bike race right now, and it's going to be a very passionate sprint between these 2 riders, and I think Felix Cardenas is going to prove that his tactics were correct, and he's looking at what he's been dreaming of for some time right now.
Well, he's got to come through and do a little bit of work with Mercado. The Sevilla group will come back, and we've seen Valverde come out of nowhere to win stages. Now he's coming through. He's going to take the initiative, even attack now. Yep. He's going flat out to the finish. That's exactly what you need to do. If you want to win any stage of a bike race, you have to take the initiative, bull by the horns, and go flat out to the finish. Now, this finally is a good move by Felix Cardenas.
Well, that was a great move. He came right up. In the end, he had to do it by himself. He had to leave the chasing group, catch the lone leader, could not allow Mercado to recover. He must hit him straight away, which he's done. So after playing the bridesmaid in the mountains throughout this tour, the king of the mountains will get maximum points at the top of this mountain today, and the stage win as well. He won the 10th stage of the Vuelta in the year 2000. Now he can add this one to his list. And I think this is a remarkable ride by him today, because He's marked all of the riders throughout all of the mountains of this tour. This isn't the battle, of course, for the golden jersey. This is the battle for the orange jersey. Let him enjoy his moment. At 30 years of age, the Colombian Felix Rafael Cardenas gets what is for him his 5th win of the year, and a very, very upset Juan Miguel Mercado has to be content with 2nd place.
What's going to be important now, though, is the times on that clock, because we've seen a great response behind Oscar Sevilla coming up to take 3rd place, just ahead of his teammate Valverde, and just getting onto the back there for 5th place, Leonardo Pipoli. But what I want to see now is the position of Roberto Heras, and there he is. He's there with Michael Rasmussen, and it looks as if one of the Osa brothers has come up there as well. But the time gaps are important between him and Isidro Nozal, the man who started the day in the yellow jersey.
Del Olmo slipping through the line there. Osa coming up now, but Heras really needs to grab as many seconds as he can. You never know, it could be vital by the end of this tour. He would be preferred 1 or 2 minutes, I think, today, not just a few seconds. But we'll wait and see. The clock really does start when he hits the line, as Aitor Osa comes over the line, and then follows the race for the time for the golden jersey. 1:01 approximately was the time gap, as Roberto Heras, with the congratulations from Michael Rasmussen, comes over the line. Now, we'll see how many seconds he's gained. One thing's for sure, there'll be no change in the leaderboard tonight, at least in the destiny of the golden jersey.
Well, there should be the golden jersey group right now. Levi Leipheimer was there, but I actually didn't see the golden jersey. He may well not even have stayed in this group, and it could be that he has suffered some kind of a defeat on the slopes of this climb, because he was a few moments ago with Levi Leipheimer. Leipheimer looking over his shoulder to see where is the golden jersey. Well, you know, Roberto Heras has got himself some serious time, because it's already around about a 40-second advantage that he's pulled back.
We're waiting. He's still there. Comes Manuel Beltran, who might have held on to his position here. As he now look over the table, still looking. There he is, tucked in on the back still of his teammate. He's going to concede on the line about 54 seconds, I would suspect, almost a minute. It may not be enough, but it certainly kept the door open.
It certainly kept the door open. In 2 days going up the mountains, Roberto Heras has pulled back almost 2 minutes of his deficit in the overall classification.
Felix Cardenas winning over Mercado. By the way, Gonzalez de Galdeano, he finished 23rd, just 1 place better than the team leader and the race leader, Isidro Nozal, all timed in at 1:55. Roberto Heras crossed the line in 8th place, just over a minute behind, 1:02 to be absolutely precise, and so he's made a gain of 53 seconds. But he needed a gain of 46 seconds, 6 seconds more than that to have moved himself up into 2nd place. But of course, he's still got the mountain time trial to come and one more mountain stage, although it's not a mountain top finish. Yes, and with just 5 days left to go, and it's another beautiful day in Spain, they still haven't found how to dislodge Isidro Nozal from that golden jersey. He's hoping by the end of this day he'll have worn it for 14 consecutive days, and no one expected that. Another day of the tour in beautiful summer-like conditions. This is now stage 17, 188 kilometers. The riders going off the Sierra Nevada, down to the start in Granada and on to Cordoba. We saw David Miller attack. He is still alone, but the other two have been joined now by Oscar Sevilla and Michael Rasmussen. Surely, Bob, that is going to cause a reaction.
Rasmussen in 7th place on GC right now. Once is going to really have to make a concerted effort now. He's still a ways away GC-wise on time, but this is a very dangerous breakaway. And Once is going to, they have all 4 men still in the front group on the front of the peloton right now, chasing so that Michael Rasmussen doesn't get any closer to the top position on GC. Here's David Miller right in the front of the bike race, and he is really flying up this road right now.
So David Miller, with a total of 22 wins in his career since he turned professional back in 1997. He's won the Maillot Jaune in the Tour de France. Don't forget, this year he lost it by 0.08 of a second, despite the fact he probably conceded 10 seconds with an unshipped chain. And he's not got over that very quickly, I can tell you, as he's now stretched it out to almost 40 seconds.
Well, that was a technical problem on that occasion. They should certainly have had a front changer on that front chain ring of his in the Tour de France, but that's not a problem this afternoon, because he's got 2 chain rings on this bike and he's got a chain guide as well. He's coming up to the Flamme Rouge right now, the international sign for every bike rider, indicating that there's just 1,000 meters to go. and nobody's going to catch this man now.
Well, he made his move probably 19 kilometres from the finish. At first he was with Mercado and Martinez, then he dropped them both, and now he's been alone ever since. A very, very good piece of descending. This is the icing on the cake for David Miller now, because it'll prove he has good legs, good form, as he looks forward to an attempt at winning his first ever World Time Trial title, following in the wheel tracks of the other great British time trialist, now retired Chris Boardman. So he'll enjoy this last few moments. He's no stranger, as I said earlier, to winning road stages as well as time trial stages in the previous Vueltas. But you're only as good as your last win, Paul, and this is a special one for him.
You're only as good as your last win. His last win was in Spain, but this is a lot better. And to win a road stage, in fact, he's won a road stage of the Vuelta before, I think, outsprinting Santiago Portera. But this one, look at the joy there. He's enjoying this, sitting up with about 500 metres to go. He knows he's got it in the bag, and he's saluting the crowd quite admirably.
Well, he's no need to worry about time. He's lost far too much of that. He's thinking purely of the stage win. Good result for his team Cofidis, and a chance to enjoy the moment here as he comes in. This time in the Vuelta last year, I think he was already out of the race. He'd slung his bike away. But now a year makes a big difference as David Miller wins the stage.
Look at that speed, 47.5 kilometres average speed for this stage of 188 kilometres here this afternoon. Now this is the next group coming in, the group of 4 riders who were caught in no man's land, and the main field is not too far behind.
Well, Rasmussen looks as though he's going to give it a bit of a sprint here. He'll be challenged, I think, and it's Martinez is still there, but it's going to be a close run thing. Rasmussen with the most to gain, but at the end of the day, the gains will not be really significant as Martinez comes over. Oscar Sevilla, is he going to get second on the line? Close. It'll go to the photograph, but look at the sprint now. This is crucial because it looks like Zabel to me. It is Zabel on the line and Bataki nowhere. Now that is going to be probably the best gain of the day.
Big gain for Eric Zabel there, just ahead of Freddy Rodriguez, who was in there in the lime green jersey for Vinny Calderola. So obviously his team did have confidence in him. He was in there with a chance of getting himself a high placing, but for Eric Zabel that will extend his lead in the points competition. He needed to do that today over Alessandro Petacchi, because for the men who are exceptionally good on the flat stages, they've not got too many left here in this Vuelta a España. They've got one more tomorrow, and then they will have to do battle again on Sunday in Madrid. But this man flew the coop early on, 20 kilometres to go, 12.5 miles. And I have to tell you what, that was a very good performance. But look at his face there. You can actually see really pushed himself over those last 15 kilometres. And I'm not sure whether it's joy or relief which comes out onto his face.
Well, there's the result of the day. Alberto Martinez, who had every chance to go with David because he was alongside him at 20 kilometres to go. He led in Oscar Sevilla, Unai Osa and Michael Rasmussen. And then further down, Eric Zabel cleaned up from the bunch, and that might have won, in hindsight, Eric Zabel the points competition, but we won't know that for a few more days. Freddy Rodriguez continues to sprint well. What a shame in some ways there was a breakaway there, because Freddy would have done probably a great sprint. There's the presentation. Now, Bob, as we watch the presentation of Nozal, I did ask you, what on earth is the mascot on the left? And you said?
That is the Bay of Biscay blue crab. It's indigenous, endangered, and it's also one of the few migratory crustaceans and the mascot of the sponsor of the Golden Jersey.
Really? Well, I'm going to ask Paul Sherwin exactly what it really is in a moment, but that is Isidro Nozal, overall leader for 14 days now. No time difference to his teammate, nor to Roberto Heras, nor to Manuel Beltran or Valverde there at 5:20. Rasmussen will have gained just a few seconds on the sprint. He's still in 7th place. He's closing in ever so little on Francisco Mancebo. And the top 10 not changing today. Felix Cardenas there at 9:28, completing the top 10. Two and a half thousand kilometres now completed, and for the last 2 weeks we've had the same overall leader, Isidro Nozal of Spain. He's looking today to defend that lead on a shortish stage of the race, just 144 kilometres. The riders now settling down for 4 nights in the same hotel in Madrid and going out to the courses each day. We're at Las Rosas now. It's a circuit race. That's just over a mile to the finish for this man, and I don't think they can take it away from him now. He'd be unwise to start celebrating just yet, but he's only won a stage in the Ruta del Sol in 2001, and in his first year as a pro he won a stage of the Tour of Argentina. Now he can add to that a stage in the Tour of Spain. Terrific result.
The blue bridge there across the road indicating to him that there are 2 kilometers left to go to the finish. That the pace that he's been doing right now will be around about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and that's all his body has to suffer for right now to get himself to the finishing line. But there has been a major acceleration in the main field. In fact, it's split the main field into 2 very distinct groups as we charge into town here right now. And once again, this has not been an easy stage of the Vuelta a Espana. He's got 58 seconds, so he's stretched it out comfortably again over the chasers. I think he doesn't have to worry too much about that because he could almost walk to the finish line now.
Hopefully, yeah. But, you know, what a great demonstration it is from a rider. You know, you just keep on trying. One day they do let you go. And today was a very hard race in that breakaway. Strong man got away. The bunch weren't chasing. The combination was right. It was all working out perfectly, and when he hit them, he waited for them to make their attacks, got them on the sprint at Valdemarillo, and then just went straight by and away.
Right now he's just got to concentrate. This is a tough road to be away on your own. There's the police indicating get off the big highway right now and look for the road into town. And you can see these guys have got no organisation right now. They're all trying to leap away one at a time, and that is certainly not the best way to try and pull time back on the man in front. And in fact,
the whole group's though come together. Zabaya's up here now.
Yeah, they were only 10 or 15 seconds off a few moments ago, but I really wonder where Zabaya came from, because he must have done a storming ride.
He was originally in the break. He fell out of it. We never actually saw him for ages, and he's gone back up to it. But it doesn't matter now. It's all too late. He's another Mr. Persistent and consistent, Zabaya. But this rider now is going to enjoy his moment as he heads through the kilometre. And he knows now nobody's going to catch him, Bob.
No, he's got a good shot here now. He just has to get around the corners in good order. Peloton is chasing very hard. It wouldn't surprise me if they caught the group that's chasing him. They seem to go under the 4K to go banner just a little bit behind the little breakaway, which would wipe out the Banesto 2-rider advantage. They were at 3 minutes taking over the team lead. Maybe that's why Once did a very hard chase, split the peloton. They won't catch this man though. He's just going to be so pleased with this win. He put a lot into it. A couple of dodgy corners here before the finish line, but then he'll see the line and he'll know it's a great result for the team and a fantastic win for himself. He's never won a race this big, and they'll be drinking the champagne at the Paternina table tonight.
Checked over his shoulder, and it's a real big result for the Paternina team, this, and he deserves everything he gets out of this tour. He's won stages in the Ruta del Sol and the Tour of Argentina. Well, as every Spanish rider will tell you, to win a stage of the Tour of Spain, and he's going to milk this one and enjoy it all the way up to the line. Time is not important, but the victory is. And he has tried and tried and tried to do this over a number of days in breakaways and on his own, and always lost his chance in the closing kilometres. But that's how you do it. You get in a break which is really under pressure. You wait until they've stopped attacking one another, and you get away and you just do the ride. Clock starts now, but Pedro Diaz Lobato is the stage winner of the 18th stage of the Tour of Spain. The peloton is here. Well, this is the merging of the two groups. There should be 8 riders here. Now, can Sabaya get himself a result here? It's been quite an escape for 2 Banesto riders, though. Arrieta, Garcia da Costa are both in this escape. Horace is trying to. But there will be a slight gain in the team race, but only slight, because the whole field is into that back straight now. They won't be quick enough to catch the leaders here as the riders sprint for the line, but it looks to me as though it's Garcia who might take it out on the line. Oh, a nasty little clash of wheels there as Schweder tries to get over the top of Horace, who couldn't get away, so he finishes last. Kel may get it, and the 2 Banesto boys come over. This might just be Laguna as he crosses the line. As the sprint now, Pataki on the right again. As they come up to the line, another, will there be any points for Eric Zabel? Now, it may have been, there was a crash there, but we'll see on the replay, but there was really a very strange antic from him as he came over the line. He thinks he's won the stage.
I have a funny feeling the Kelme rider actually came up towards the end. He didn't realise that anybody was in front. We've seen this on a number of occasions in the past, and I think he thought he was going for the win there, and that's going to be rather upsetting.
We've seen Pedro Diaz win his first stage of the Tour of Spain, while poor old Constantino Sabaya, he thought he'd won his first stage. This is him coming up to the line. He'd caught the breakaway late on. He had no idea that one man had slipped away, and he was getting ready to celebrate his first ever win on the stage of the Tour of Spain. You've got to feel sorry for him because he too, like Pedro Diaz Lobato, is a real trier in this race, but it wasn't to be. He actually was second, 44 seconds behind Diaz, and the rest of the break coming in same time. Arrieta, Rafael Schweder of Germany, and Jose Garcia Acosta there completing the top 5, as it were. Inaki Isasi, all these riders were in the breakaway virtually throughout the day today. Laguna and Carlos Garcia. Zabel best of the rest in 10th, and a valuable few points there in the points competition, but not many gained, was it? Because Pataki was right on his back wheel, but interestingly, Zabel again beating him in the sprint to the line there with Fred Rodriguez in 12th place. Heras finishing 36, same time as the golden jersey. This is the scene on the finishing podium today. Pedro Diaz, his 3rd win of his career, and without doubt far and away his best win. So in effect there's no change amongst the leaders. Might be tomorrow. We're back in the mountains as we look down there. Valverde still just a little bit behind Beltran, Mancebo, and propping them all up is Felix Cardenas at 9:28. So no change at all in the top 10 as we head towards the last weekend. 15 days in the golden jersey now for Isidro Nozal. He's got an awful lot of these trophies, plaques and flowers, but I'm sure he's sharing them with a very, very good and efficient Once team. 19 days, the mountains are back in the Vuelta a Espana. Just a weekend to come, the last real opportunity now for Roberto Heras to attack the race leader of 15 days. Isidro Nozal knows now he's going to have to resist, surely, a hard attack from this man who won the race in the year 2000. It's going to be a tough day. This is the situation. Nozal still on top of the leaderboard, still with 3:03 on his teammate Galdiano. 3:09 is the big time count though on Roberto Heras. Beltran is in 4th. Alejandro Valverde still with some fight there in 5th. Further down the list as his final weekend approaches, Mancebo stays in 6th, while propping up the top 10, a stage winner on the Sierra Nevada, Felix Cardenas at 9:28. 4 Americans survive to the final weekend as well, and Levi Leipheimer is the best of them in 61st. Freddy Rodriguez, still promising us a stage win, perhaps on Sunday in Madrid, is lying there in 116th place. One man who is pretty safe in the King of the Mountains, and today should confirm himself as the King of the Mountains, is the Colombian rider Felix Cardenas, brought into this race to try and win this title for his small team, and it looks as though after today he will have done it. Let's have a look at the situation in the King of the Mountains competition. He's got 194 points. Aitor Oza back there on 112, and Horace Valverde Perez. Perez wants the leader of this competition very early on in the opening week. So that competition should end today. Let's have a look where we're off to. It stays 19, remember. It's a road pretty familiar to the riders who took part in this event 1 year ago, from Alcobendas to Collado Villalba. And Pablo Lestras, by the way, was the winner on that occasion. He's in a leading group of riders at the moment, as they just come over the top of the first category climb. The second first category climb, the Navacerrada, which takes us up to 1,880 metres, is still ahead. This is the main field, don't forget. There are still 11 riders ahead, but this now is the battle to try and unseat the golden jersey.
Well, Levi Leipheimer really getting into form in the last week of the Vuelta a España here. I think he's going to be a very serious candidate when we go forward to the World Championships in Hamilton. Luis Perez also moving forward. This is now Cardenas, the leader of the King of the Mountains classification. The pressure is on. Everybody has thrown caution to the wind. This is the last big chance in the Vuelta a España to really blow the race apart and maybe finally decide all of the positions in the top 10. Roberto Heras in about 7th or 8th place.
No, Towler just swung off there, Bobby. We've seen him do that before. He has given 100%, and now he has gone. He's still got teammates there. Rasmussen has come in nicely now, right in behind Luis Perez. The big men in the overall are starting to test the water.
Roberto Heras going down the far side. He looked over his shoulder just to see what the face of Isidro Nozal was like. He knows he's got to do something very special here this afternoon. 3rd in the overall classification at the start of the day, 3:09 behind. And right now it's Perez taking up the pacemaking. But you know what? Isidro Nozal is still there for the moment.
Well, they still have just over 2,000 feet to climb to the summit of this mountain, as we now see Heras really launching an early attack. He's got to go early, Bob. He's got to get minutes. He's not looking for seconds on this climb.
He looks fantastic right now. He's put in a big attack. Luis Perez, who's been riding so very strongly, starting to close the gap now with Michael Rasmussen. We haven't seen Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. I think he has detonated. One of the first riders to go was Mikel Pradera, but he'd been doing a lot of the tempo leading up to the bottom of the climb. But now Heras knows that no matter who comes with him, he has to make a huge effort, and he's hoping that that man just down the line in the golden jersey will crack, start to open up gaps. You can see him trying to fight for the wheel of Chema del Olmo from the Menanatsa team. He's having a hard time doing that. I'm sure we'll see Oscar Sevilla come forward as a real strong ally for Roberto Heras, and they'll have a real attacking ride all the way to the top of this climb. And Nozal is in trouble right now.
Well, Luis Perez pulled off as well. He couldn't stay on the wheel of Roberto Heras. He never quite closed down. But this man, Gonzalez de Galdeano, is the one they wanted to get rid of. He's there with Tricky Beltran. Won't get any help at all from him. But I think we'd seen that, hadn't we, Bob, on his face earlier on in the day. He really was not having a good day. Maybe the last weekend is going to be the last weekend too much for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano.
Just one climb too many for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. You can see what Nozal can do to limit. Now Cardenas has come forward. Roberto Heras is flying up this mountain. He's putting in a big challenge now. He knows that he'll know now that de Galdeano is gone. He's done some serious damage already in the first couple of kilometers of this climb. He looks so composed. He's into a very good rhythm there. Cardenas struggling just to stay on his wheel, so you know he's making big progress. He needs for Nozal to crack, and Nozal needs right now to start resisting, going at his own tempo, not try to panic and try to go up the hill as fast as he can and see who has less. It looks like Piepoli from the Vanessa team has come flying across the gap. That's a very strong trio of climbers right there, putting in some big damage to Isidro Nozal.
Well, I think Galdeano, he knows how bad he's going at the moment. He will ride sensibly here and hope to close down a little bit of time on the descent. He will probably now concede second. He's got to watch out, though. He doesn't concede third to Alejandro Valverde, because if he finishes 2:17 behind Valverde, he will lose that third place, and Valverde will get his wish, and that's to be on the podium in Madrid. Now we're looking down on the peloton here, which is splitting up. Heras is really giving this just about everything he possesses, everything that's left in the stockpile now, and he's been joined by two good climbers. This is the leader here who's not panicking. He's got time in hand, and he knows this mountain isn't going to go on too long, so he will stay very sensible. There's Valverde in the blue jersey. Rasmussen is setting the pace, and I think, you know, he's just going to, it's very, very important at this moment in time he doesn't go into the red zone by doing silly things.
Well, he doesn't want to respond to the attacks of the climbers. This man is a little bit like a diesel engine. We've seen him ride superbly in the individual time trials, which indicates he can get up to speed and then ride at his own very good tempo, but he's not able to respond to the accelerations of men like Cardenas and Roberto Heras. They actually haven't opened up that much of an advantage right now, and they really need to start working together when they get to the steeper part of the climb. And look at that, there's a lot of work being done on the front. Looks like, in fact, it's Valverde in person who's stirring up the pacemaking.
Well, you have to remember that this climb actually kicks rather nastily in the last 500 meters to the summit, and you can make good progress there as we continue to twist our way up the mountain. The last big first category climb of this year's Vuelta Espana, the last chance for Heras to get time over the golden jersey. Enough time to maybe finish him off tomorrow in the mountain time trial. Isidro Nozal is in terrible difficulty. Look at this. He has slipped to the tail of the group now, and is looking extremely vulnerable, because at the front of the group it is Roberto Heras who is turning the screw. We have had shots too of the team car of Once rushing all around the place, I think shouting at the TV cameraman for getting too close to the race at the front. And there is the Once car now, and I think that this is a situation where again he's come up on the TV camera to complain about the proximity of the motorbike. But the one thing is sure, Nozal is being isolated in the bottom left of our picture.
And I can't understand why the man at the front there, top left-hand corner, Vicioso, has not been called back. It could be, Bob, let's not forget these little race radios that everybody has. They only have a range of about 2 kilometers, and that's in a straight line. Well. And in a mountain like this, he might not be able to talk to his man. He's trying to get past, but look at the race referee. The race referee is not very happy at all with Manolo Sainz. He actually, on one occasion, I think, blocked the TV motorbike to one side of the road to stop him trying to get camera shots from the front of this group. But this man right now is going through all kinds of hell just trying to stay in the bike race.
Marco Serrano there now, the most solid of all the Team Once riders. is trying to pace him back. That's another group of riders just in front of them who have been dropped by the Eras-led attack on these slopes with Sevilla. Michael Rasmussen is in there. Eras now has a lot of allies in the attack on this golden jersey. Nozal is losing all kinds of trouble, and I think that Manolo Sáenz is losing his mind right now. He's trying to block the TV camera and made him come to a dead stop on the side of the road, thinking that he was perhaps helping the breakaway riders a little bit too much. But it's an 11K kilometer climb up to 6,000 feet. You have to be a little bit calm when you're the team manager. They've been doing so much work. This is the last moment for anybody to unseat Nozal, and they're taking full advantage of it at this point.
Well, I think Nozal, hopefully, he's learned something over 3 weeks, and that's not to panic totally yet. He's got Serrano with him. Serrano is a wonderful teammate. Here he is talking to him, keeping him going, probably saying, just follow my wheel, sit there and wait. He's got David Echeverria has come up with him as well, and that's Santos Gonzalez in the striped suit, who also has a high position and doesn't want to lose it. So they're all gathering around Nozal now. And this guy also, don't forget, has made a lot of friends on this race because he's resisted all the attacks thrown at him. He never came in anybody's books as a winner of this tour. And I think a lot of people want to help him now.
Well, it actually looks there a little bit as if Santos Gonzalez is encouraging him too, because Gonzalez himself up in the top 10 or 12. This is Manolo Sáenz. He's not very happy at all with the TV cameras there because he's trying to keep them away from the front end of the bike race. He feels that they were getting a little bit too close to the attacks of Roberto Heras and Oscar Sevilla and maybe falsifying the race. I think he will find himself with a very large fine here this afternoon. There's the race referee saying, you stay there, do not come by me. He has the ability to throw Manolo Sáenz off the bike race, but he must be really pretty hot under the collar right now, Manolo, because this is the moment that the Vuelta a España is turning upside down.
Well, our cameras are actually looking for more action now, apart from what's on the cycling track here, as we're trying to work out what is going on. This is further up the climb here now, as we're seeing the whole breakaway split up. This is Filippo Simeoni. He was up in that original breakaway of 11. As I say, nobody up here is part of the race for the golden jersey, but there's a flotilla of cars back there now as they try to come together. That is Klaus Moeller in second place, but the real battle is down behind us, and we know now that Roberto Heras has got away off the front. He's looking the 3 minutes, and you know, Manolo's got to be careful here because he's needed on the race over the next 2 days, and I think after the way he's acting, he could find himself thrown off now and not be back until Madrid. At the same time, it's too early for Isidro Nozal to panic.
He must not panic. The most important thing right now is to try and recompose himself, get himself back into a situation where he's riding at a rhythm which is comfortable. He can afford to lose at least 2 minutes on this climb and still then take a few risks on a very long descent down into the finishing line. We can't get any photographs of Roberto Heras for the moment because it seems as if the TV motorbike that was alongside Heras has actually been stopped and he's having a hard time getting back into the race. But you see, this is a bad moment for a man who's been leading this bike race for 15 days. He can't even follow the wheel of his teammate there, Serrano, who's just trying to coax him, encourage him. And I think, Bob, I have a funny feeling, Bob, that even Santos Gonzalez is trying to help him.
I have a feeling too, and they might be training partners. 3 Spaniards here chasing Roberto Heras, and Heras is flying up the road right now. He's putting everything into this attack, and Nozal is in all kinds of agony. He's trying to follow the wheels. It looks like he is just totally out of energy. He's put so much into defending this jersey for over 2 weeks now. Roberto Heras has been in 3rd place, totally calm, cool, and collected, and now the big assault here. He did damage on the Sierra Nevada and the Pandera climbs, and now he's going flat out. You can see it looks like that might be the King of the Mountain jersey there.
Valverde as well.
And Valverde along with a little bit of a Kelme assault right now, and Isidro Nozal in all kinds of trouble. Manolo Sáenz is not doing any help at all. They're chasing Heras. He is flying up the mountain. It wouldn't surprise me if he caught up to Floyd Landis, his teammate, in a few moments. Landis, who was at the top of the climb now. We'll see Klaus Moeller there and Filippo Simeoni. Landis just detached from these riders. He'll wait for Heras and then fly down to the finish line and try to gain as much time as possible.
Well, it's a very fast and rapid descent down towards the line there, and a quick explanation of why Santos Gonzalez might have been helping there, because before he moved across to the Domino Vacanze team, he used to be a very integral part of Team Once. This man has ridden away right now from Oscar Sevilla, and he's also ridden away from Alejandro Valverde. He is trying to blow this race apart. This is further down the mountain. There's Beltran, and I would think in this group we will see number 21, but it's very difficult. There's so much action going on here on the slopes of this final first category climb that we're trying to get the whole of the story as much as we can. But Roberto Heras has done what he promised he would do, gone out on the assault. He's not looking right now, Bob, I don't think, of moving up into second place. He wants to try and win the Vuelta here this afternoon.
He hasn't got the road left to win the Vuelta, because we're coming to the top of the mountain now, and Isidro Nozal has got a teammate with him to get him back on the way down this mountain. He's played his cards, but I doubt he'll gain a minute on the day.
It might not be more than a minute. We don't know the exact gap between Heras and Nozal. Nozal seems to be coming in the same part of the mountain as Roberto Heras. You can see the remnants of the breakaway just in front of Roberto Heras. A minute and 11 down on Klaus Moller. Let's see where Floyd Landis is on the road. It wouldn't surprise me if he was just up there, just around the corner. Heras will get hooked up with him, and then they will do everything they can to get to the finish line with as much time as possible. It was a minute and 11 to Heras. Let's see what the time gap is when Nozal gets to the top of the very last mountain on today's stage.
There's still a little way to go, but here he is, and the bunch is getting bigger around him as well. And 140 and counting, but remember, it's 111 is the figure we're taking off. He's lost 33 seconds at the moment as we continue the climb. And the Once boys, including Gonzalez de Galdeano, have got into this group now. They're massing together, and I think they're right to have ridden like this. Now, if you start pushing the golden jersey, then you'll get him disqualified.
I'll tell you what, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, he really is riding this bike race on a lot of courage too, isn't he, Bob? Because he looked in all kinds of difficulty just a few moments ago, and we can see there is at least 1 minute for Roberto Heras right now, and this group hasn't yet gone round the corner. I think we're going to look at around about 1 minute and 20 seconds, so it's going to be a huge battle, a huge pursuit down towards the finishing line.
Well, it might also turn out to be an ace card played by Johan Bruneel to have put Floyd Landis in the first breakaway of the day, to have him ahead, to wait for Heras, and then team time trial into the line. He might be able to provide the firepower to keep him with an advantage of 1 and 1.5 minutes by the time they get down. And that would be the sort of tactic I think we'd expect from Johan. Here we are, they're back together. So Landis has come now from the front to pick up Heras. It's all going to a plan of US Postal, and I have to take my hat off to Bruneel because it's working out yet again. Now they've got firepower to at least hold their gains as they run down to the finish.
3 kilometers in the finish to Simeone and Moller. Now they've started to desperately try to fight out for the stage. They need to stay in front of the group because, of course, in the Heras-led group, there's a lot of riders that are conserving their energy. Christian Marini especially is a very fast sprinter. He hasn't done one single turn on the front. Also, Beat Zeberg is a very good finisher himself on a stage like this. So a lot of passengers in the group being led by the Kelme team and the U.S. Postal Riders. And Moller and Simeone, if they want to win the stage, have got to stay in front of them. It's down to about 25 seconds. And here's the chase group getting ever closer. It's going to be about the same gap. It was 1:15 the last kilometer. It looks like they've closed one. No, it's exactly the same. So a real war on the roads into Coyo da Villaba for this finish of the Vuelta a Espana.
It's a wonderful pursuit, 1:15, 1:15. The leaders under 3, the chasers going for 3, the 2 leaders who got away on the climb, Moller and Simeone. Here they are looking very tired because that group of Roberto Heras has shut down in 3 kilometers at 43 seconds and is closing now very quickly. Change of direction now as we head down into town. These are the 2 leaders at 2 kilometers to go, while we are still waiting for the time check for the chase at 3 kilometers. But it could be at the end of this day that about 1.5 minutes will be the only advantage of the race leader. Now that is going to make the time trial tomorrow extremely interesting because, of course, it's a mountain time trial. Here's the check now. This is behind the leaders at first.
Well, there's a few guys in this group, and just spot there, number 48, Luis Perez has also managed to get into this group of Roberto Heras, so he too is looking to move up in the overall classification. But right now, a lot of these passengers are throwing away the possibility of a stage victory. I think 1 or 2 riders really need to go forward right now and help the Kelme chase and also help the US Postal Service chase, because if they sit on this group for very much longer, they're going to lose any chance of winning the stage, which is why they're there.
The gap was at 17 seconds. It went up to 19 seconds. So 2 riders against about 20 riders were able to gain 2 seconds in just a few meters. So if they want to have a chance to win, the Manesso riders, there's a little bit of a disaster there. It looked like that
Someone's
might be Fabian Yecker, and there's a crash
there,
now,
Bob.
trying to gain the maximum time. It looks like the Manesso rider, Francisco Mancebo, and Constantino Zavalla crashing also. He was so close to winning the stage yesterday. He's right on the limit today. You know that Postal and Kelmy are doing everything to catch the breakaway, but Moeller and Simeone working very well together. A little bit of a climb here. Here they are now. They're coming up on 1 kilometer to go. It is going to be desperate to the finish line. They cannot sit on and try to rest. They have to fight it out all the way to the line.
Well, Simeone a couple of years ago got himself a stage victory in the Vuelta a Espana. He's been sitting on for the last few 100 meters, and he's hoping that it's going to force Klaus Moeller on the front to lead out the sprint. They are still surviving by around about 15 seconds over the chasing group, and surprisingly enough, that group behind, they've lost all the impetus, and that's really because a lot of the other guys are deciding to sit on the back and take the risk that it will all come together. But I think they've actually left it just a little bit too late.
Well, Simeone hasn't won a race for a couple of years, and now is his biggest chance as he tries to come off the wheel of Klaus Moeller. He should hold on. His last win was a stage in the Tour of Spain in the year 2001. 2 full years since he's won a stage. This could be his big moment. As he swings into the straight, he's decided to take the lead here over Klaus Moeller. Judging by the face on Moeller, Simeone's going to get this victory for Domina Vacanzi, the team who almost never came here. Mario Cipollini stayed just long enough to qualify them. Simeone's give them vindication. He gets the victory. Now it's the time split that we want on the next group in, as Bieterberg gets on terms with Christian Mereni. Here is a good sprinter in a situation like that. Mereni, I think, is just about going to hold off Scarponi. No. Well, they're having a great day out, Domina Vacanzi, and we've started now at 16 seconds the count, and this is now going to be absolutely vital. Floyd Landis in the end off the back. He may have been delayed a little bit in that crash, or he may have sat up because he's given a lot of effort today. Now the seconds are counting. Just how much time has Roberto Heras gained? Because every second could win him the race tomorrow.
Dario Frigo just on the back there, but this is a long finishing straight right now, and Roberto Heras did everything that he could this afternoon to try and get himself back into this race. Here's the golden jersey taking up responsibility himself on the front end of his team, Once, and it's going to be around about a 1 minute mark on the line.
Oh, it's a very, very good comeback. They've had to call on the 2 men in the top 2 places overall to finish it off for the team at the end of the day. Little bit of help there possibly from Lara as they come up to the line. They, I think, have still got to turn into this straight and sprint, so it's going to be a long time. It might be a minute and a half, and that's what we said Heras needed today. If he has got a minute and a half, tomorrow could be one highlight of a time trial. As they race up to the line now as a team time group, the minute and a half is passing by. They say it exactly. 1.5 minutes less 16 seconds is 1 minute 14 in total. Let's have a look at the stage result of Filippo Simeone winning ahead of Klaus Moeller, ever-present Klaus Moeller on this race. Perdiguero it was who came up from nowhere to get 3rd place, Mereni and Zerberg. But the big names, where did they all finish? 9th, Alejandro Valverde. Heras 11th plus 16 seconds, but then look, Nozal plus 1 minute 30, he loses at minute 14, and Galdiano right alongside the man who is on the same team. His once big lead is now shrunk to 1 minute and 55 seconds. Heras himself comes into 2nd place. Gonzalez de Galdiano goes down to 3rd but keeps the same time deficit. Alejandro Valverde comes up to 4th and at 1 minute 3 off Galdiano. Might get him yet for a podium place in Madrid. Francisco Mancebo, he's come up to 5th. He's jumped over the top of Francisco Beltran, I beg your pardon, who is up there in 6th place. This has been changes amongst the leaders, but not amongst the leader. He keeps his golden jersey. He had to work harder than he's ever worked. This man, has he matured over his 16 days as leader of this tour. He's now 2 days away from victory, but he knows he is not safe. Tomorrow, of course, he's got the mountain time trial, so he's not going to sleep too easily tonight. And I can tell you, by the way, the contretemps with the team management, the mechanic and Manolo Sainz, the commissaires are sitting, and they could yet be thrown off this race for their actions out on the course. Yes, it's only 11 kilometres, but it seems certain now to decide the destiny of the final golden jersey when this race ends in Madrid tomorrow. And the question is, will it be Isidro Nozal or indeed Roberto Heras? It's all uphill today from about 1,040 metres right through to the summit of the Abantos climb. And it's only short, but it could still alter the final destiny of this race. It is all uphill, as you can see. A little bit of respite in the middle. We finish up at around 1,530 metres. The riders are underway, and we'll catch up with that very shortly. 11.2 kilometres in total. The top is at 1650. The average gradient 5.6 with a maximum of 16%. They say they have fitted on the back cluster 25 tooth sprockets, so that is a very low gear. Manolo Sainz has been told not to come near the Vuelta Espana now for this weekend and stay away. He was accused of bringing not only the race into disrepute but also the sport when he came up against the television camera here, and he actually pinned the vehicle up against the wall and stopped them filming Roberto Heras, and there was a huge exchange of temper. And as a result, and don't forget that the president of the UCI, the World Cycling Governing Body, Hein Verbruggen, was on the race. He's been fined 800 Swiss francs, it's around about $600 US. He's also been told to stay away from the race, and I think he'll find further sanctions coming from the UCI. Now Miller, once again, the third time in this race, he's come in with the best time. He'll throw down the gauntlet now and see if anybody can pick it up. I must say, if he wins a mountain time trial, that will be an extremely good performance by this man, and he's clearly come here to win this. A little bit uncomfortable for him. It looks as though the glasses have slipped with the sweat on his nose there, but he hits the line, clearly the best time, 26:17, a minute and 12 seconds better than the man already in the start house. This is going to be desperately close for David Miller, and if it is Jecke who takes over, will be something of a surprise, I think. We didn't expect Jecke to rival David Miller on a climb like this. He is a very good climber, strong man. He started with severe determination when he left the start house. He went through with a much better time than David Miller at the halfway check, and it's going to be close, and I think it's going to beat him. It looks as though he's managed to keep his effort. He knows he's on the possibility of a top time, and at this sort of level, it could be the best time that will withstand the day here. That's not Miller watching him go by the way, but it's the best time. Continue to improve all of the way up. This is the arrival of Levi Leipheimer, and a very good time indeed. This is confirmation that Levi is coming back to his form after that nasty crash in the Tour de France in July. He's riding in second place at the moment, and Leiseca's time there, 25:40. I don't think he'll get inside that. It's still a fair way to go, but a very determined ride here by Levi Leipheimer. He should make the top three. There's still, of course, the big boys to go. Cheered all the way up to the summit. Look at his face as he comes up to the line, and he is now aiming at Miller's time at 26:17. He'll be inside that for sure. So he's going to slot in at the moment in third place. It's only a question with what time. A good effort this by Levi. I think he wanted to prove to himself he was returning to form. 26 kilometres an hour for that climb. That's good. And just 33 seconds off the pace. So Fabian Jecke's still best time. The four Americans are now all in. These are the time splits based on the time of Fabian Jecke, and Leipheimer just 33 seconds slower.
Roberto Heras now out on the course. This is all or nothing for Heras to win the Vuelta a España. He lost it on the last time trial last year, and I'm sure he's carrying some of that bitterness with him. Yeah, look at these crowds. He's coming through, and he's 3 minutes into his effort, and he's starting to feel it right now, I bet.
Here he is in the starting gate now, right now, for the moment of truth for him. He has 10 seconds per kilometre in hand, and as long as he doesn't panic over the first couple of kilometres, he should really have enough in hand to win this Vuelta a España, and maybe the biggest surprise winner since Melchior Mauri did the same thing back in 1991, and by coincidence for the same team as well, Team Once.
Well, when he got the race lead about day 3 or 4 into the race, he said he now wanted another teammate to carry the weight of the golden jersey, but it wasn't to be. He became from the big senior super domestique to the team leader, and now he's starting the most important ride of his career. I think visually, looking at Heras, he is gaining time. It's just that we don't know how much.
He's gaining time almost certainly. He's dancing on the pedals like a pure climber that he is. He's a magical man when it goes to going up hills fast, and I think today he wants to try and take out the stage victory if he can. As we go a little further up, we can see the arrival here of Felix Cardenas. Again, a very good time by Felix Cardenas. It's not going to knock Fabian Jekke off the top of the leaderboard right now because it's still a long way to go. Well, I tell you what, I might be wrong.
Well, it's going to be very close, but it is a very, very, very good time because it's the best. 25.22. Now, that is a great ride by Cardenas. I'm sorry for Fabian Jekke. He thought he was on for a great victory there. But that's the king of the mountains for you. He's on his own ground and he's put in the best time.
Here's Ivo Gonzalez Igandiano well down in 36th place, a minute 12 down so far. So he is more than likely losing his third place in the overall classification.
Well, we'll wait and see too, because remember, 2 minutes behind him is Roberto Heras. That's going to be a lovely carrot to try and catch Galdiano at the moment. We don't know what Valverde has done at that check. We didn't see him go through. Our cameras are swinging around 6.5 kilometres to the summit now. And look, he's right on the mark. He's almost 2 minutes quicker. He goes through second best time at 13.26. Well, 14, so he's a minute quicker now. I've seen a lot quicker than that, though.
Seemed a lot quicker. He's 9 seconds down on the time that was set there by Fabian Jekke. Now, this is a very good time check for Roberto Heras. He will realise that he's in the same time as the fastest men up the mountain so far. There you can see he was faster at this point than Cardenas, but Cardenas carried on and improved, and Roberto Heras is going up this mountain as if it's flat, Bob. He's taking all kinds of risks. Very rarely do you see a man go uphill like this and have to slow down to go around the corners.
Here he comes to the all-important first-time check.
Nozal coming through 27th position, a minute exactly on the leader, which puts him not so far. The GPS system is about right at 48 seconds. 14.17 for Nozal, and that compares with 13.26 of Heras. So there's the situation. Heras in second, 9 seconds behind the leader, and coming in Nozal at 14.17. It is going to be close, but I think he might hang on. Here comes Alejandro Valverde. Still top of the leaderboard is Cardenas at 25.22. Has Valverde done enough? It's going to be very, very close here. He's won 2 stages already in the mountains, and he gets it. My goodness me, it must be by 100th of a second. 25.22.
That's unbelievable. This is going to turn out to be a very closely fought out race here this afternoon. What an incredible sprint. This kid at 23 years of age is doing well.
But I'll tell you what, I think Valverde will have done enough there to have taken third place in the Tour of Spain. He thought that was remote. I think he's done it with that ride. But this man here now could be feeling the opposite effect to what he felt a year ago when he lost in a time trial. He is now so close, and I have to say it, Nozal looks absolutely beaten at the minute.
He looks horrible. He's got to find something in the reserve tank. He's got to put everything into it. This could go down to a couple of seconds one way or the other, and he has to fight all the way to the finish line. He's got to try to find something from somewhere, but he's lost it all right now. And look at the difference. Roberto Heras, 1 kilometer to go.
Bob, look at the difference in the energy. Just look at the difference in the energy right now. Roberto Heras is out of the saddle. He's bouncing. He's keeping the legs going, where the man on the right-hand side in the yellow jersey, he appears to be struggling. You can see the pain in his legs just trying to keep that gear ticking over right now. He is not on his own terrain here for the moment. Roberto Heras is.
He's close enough to get the best time, which is very, very important for the win as well. What a way to take the golden jersey if that's the way it's going to be. Heras racing now, chasing Valverde's time of 25.22. That surely is good enough. 25.08. Now the clock starts, and if it counts more than 2 minutes plus the 2 minutes he's behind, then I'm afraid the golden jersey will have shifted shoulders. Well, 27.03.
That's the time that this man has to cross the finishing line if he's going to stay in the golden jersey.
Roberto Heras, so bitterly disappointed at losing the Vuelta last year on the last day of the race. Nozal is going to feel that today. He's in 28th place now. It's going to be so desperately close.
27.03 was the time. It has gone by. He is out of the golden jersey as he comes to the line. Isidro Nozal, for 16 days the leader, will slot back into second place today. And for the 3rd year in succession, the final time trial has switched the destiny of the overall leadership. Nozal and Once have suddenly lost their grip on this race. It's now swung over to Roberto Heras and the US Postal. 27.31. He concedes 2.23 28 seconds too far.
It's a shame, really, to see a champion like that lose, because he fought so well. He was thrown all kinds of attacks at him in the Pyrenees. He defended it superbly in the flat individual time trials. But here on the slopes here to the summit of this incredible climb, the Alto de Abantos, he just could not get the power which Roberto Heras had. And just look at the difference in the pedaling style, how much freer, how much more energy Roberto Heras has got coming up to the line. Not only has he won himself the stage here this afternoon, but he's won himself the Vuelta a Espana for the second time in his career.
It's all gone wrong for Once with just the 1 day to go to the end. First of all, the day's result. Roberto Heras wins the stage in 25:08. Another inspired performance by the 23-year-old Valverde, just 14 seconds slower. King of the Mountains Cardenas gets third. Then the early leader Yecker drops to fourth. Gonzalez there in fifth. A little bit further down, Mancebo was 19th, but Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano 41st. Nozal finishing 43rd. Look at those time gaps. They both lost their respective places in the overall classification because of that. The American riders, well, this is a good ride by Levi Leipheimer at 48 seconds, taking an 8th place today. Floyd Landis's ride looked good when he finished, but he slipped away to take 32nd place. Let's go down then to the presentation now, the golden jersey. There it is. This time a year ago, he was about to lose the golden jersey and finish second. Now he's reversed that, and I think tomorrow he will win this race, of course, when we go down to Madrid. Outstanding, inspired ride today. He never believed that he could remove a 1 minute 55 second deficit, and in fact he removed a lot more than that to win this race by a reasonably clear margin tomorrow. Great performance. Roberto Heras now leading the race with a day to go. 28 seconds to the good over the 16-day leader Isidro Nozal. Valverde has claimed a podium finish tomorrow. Gonzalez de Galdeano has fallen away into fourth, and the ever-consistent Francisco Mancebo holds fifth place. Let's have a little look further down. Beltran will finish the race in sixth place to complete a great result for US Postal. Michael Rasmussen, Cardenas and Luis Perez claiming top 10. And after 3 weeks of racing, the scene is now set. The final city, Madrid, is ready to welcome home Roberto Heras as the winner for a second time since the year 2000. Let's have a look then at the map, because this is the final stage, and although they've shortened the route slightly because of various reasons on the course to make a compensation, they've taken a lap off in Madrid, so we're doing 7 circuits when we get into the city. It's 90.6 miles. Big interest, of course, in the sprints, because yesterday on the finishing result, Valverde got the lead on points by a single point. Here it is over Eric Zabel and Pataki at 135. Those two riders could still take off the points prize in this event. Let's have a look then what has been happening on the course. This was the first sprint of the day at Aganda del Rey. After 25 kilometres, the white jersey of German champion Zabel taking it out over his teammate Stefan Westermann. Valverde contesting it in third. That's the situation after sprint 1. Zabel 155, Valverde 153. Pataki, for some reason, not in the points, didn't seem to contest it, sitting back there on the same score. And then we went on to the second sprint, which was only 11 kilometres later. Now, this was a telecom demonstration. The whole team going for it, again with terrific enthusiasm. The man that won the points competition last year, Eric Zabel, simply flew away from the field. Zabel taking this one eventually, again ahead of Westermann, with Torsten Heickmann, his teammate, in third place. So currently then, with one sprint still to come, Zabel is now 6 points to the good over Valverde. Pataki not contesting these sprints. He may have conceded them and decided to just go for what would be his 5th stage win. And the other two riders really don't count. Cardenas, of course, the king of the mountains. So let's now go down to the action. That's Tony Towler on the front at the minute as he tries to launch it. Nice little lead out for rival Eric Zabel. This one, Tony. Fine, I'm sure Valverde will thank you for this, because Zabel is sitting there, Westermann, and he's now inviting him to go and take the sprint. I think that was something of a nice gesture from the Kelme team, in all honesty, which indicates to me, Bob, that they might be saying, Eric, there's no way we can handle you, so go ahead and get the points.
Well, I think you got the tactics all wrong there. I don't think he expected to see Eric Zabel responding quite so quickly. If he could have got a gap, he would have tried to get himself maximum points and take them away. In fact, he's trying to sprint out against Eric Zabel right now, because it looks to me as if Towler may well have got the 4 points ahead of Eric Zabel.
I've never seen a tactic like that. And he seemed as if he was going to set up, and then Zabel didn't sprint, and then at the last moment he came around him. Well, that was a brilliant tactical move right there. I've never ever seen that.
2 points.
He did save 2 points.
And that might be crucial in the final sprint, you know.
Antonio Towler is an absolute genius. He pulled off, he waved them through, they both sat up, both Vesseman and Zabel sat up, and then Tony sprinted them again. I don't think that will make Eric Zabel very happy at all to see what Tony
I think he'll have a chuckle. I think Zabel's got enough points advantage over the challenger Alessandro Valverde to have a good laugh about that, because that was a good move and certainly gave us a bit of a laugh here. Look, Eric Zabel, he's a real gent.
Well, he's 8 points to the good now over Valverde, so he hasn't got to lose many places in the sprint if Valverde was to take out the win today, with 25 for the win. He's got to be in the first 3, I think. But the way they're riding here, I'm not sure whether Valverde is going to contest that points competition. Here's now the new situation. Zabel has 161, Valverde 153. Pataki not getting involved at all, saving his legs for what he thinks will be a 5th stage win in not too long from now. 135 points for Pataki. But here comes the charge now, and again Alessio is trying to do something here. It's making it very difficult for Pataki's team to keep control. You can see that clear white jersey of the German champion Eric Zabel. Also now, all he's doing is holding his place. He doesn't have to win the stage anymore to win this race on points.
2 kilometers ago, it's absolute chaos at the front end of the main field. You would never see the teams of Domino Vacanzi lose control of the front end of the peloton like that as we go inside the kite right now. The white jerseys are on the front. Zabel's up into 2nd position. That's a little bit too far to the front right now. Here's the counter-attack. This is going to be Lombardi.
This is for Lombardi. This is the big lead out to try and get him to the line and give him a happy day in his adopted country. The Italian there is lined up in placing, but Guidi's also trying to get in on this act too. And still, Pataki is perfectly placed along with Eric Zabel. They are gambling as always with the sprinters. They're holding their position until the last minute, and we're having a job actually staying just in front of them here. But as we look under the trees now, still it is the men of Fassa Bortolo looking for the exact location. Now this could go the opposite way, because slowing down like this could lead to the sprinters. Rodriguez is over on the right there as well. Gutierrez is centre here now, and Lombardi is also still in this race with a chance. Now the lead out has started again, but they're mixing it up now because they're breaking into the sprinters' rights of Fassa Bortolo as they come round that nasty dogleg. It is still a chance now, but Pataki is going to have to cover a 3rd wheel. Zabel's left it far too late. As I say that, he makes his move over on the left of our picture. A final kick from Zabel, forget it. Pataki had it all right all of the time and wins convincingly on the line. He gambled his whole day on that, and he threw away any possibility of winning the points competition because he wanted a 5th stage win in this year's Vuelta.
Well, Eric Zabel started a long way down. There's Roberto Heras just coming through in the yellow jersey, being congratulated by his teammates, so no problem at all. He finished in the same time, and that was the fastest lap, 6 minutes and 33 seconds. A very rapid final lap here in the very heart of Madrid. Well, no sign either of the blue jersey, or the points jersey, I should say, of Alejandro Valverde, because look at this. Look how far back Eric Zabel came from. He was a long way back. He was just getting it up into gear, and he was actually moving in on Pataki all of the time as Pataki easily salutes the crowd. And Freddy Rodriguez consistently up there again in 3rd position, but you cannot beat this man right now. And Phil, that takes it up to win number 26 for the season and number 5 in the Vuelta a España.
Absolutely amazing. He makes it all look so easily, doesn't he? But this is the man who is the best sprinter of the year. Pataki wins. The last lap was the quickest lap. Zabel did well to get 2nd, and at the end of the day is a clear winner of this race on points, as he was 1 year ago. The sprinters, of course, getting their day in Madrid. Pataki getting the better over Zabel, who finished very quickly, but not quite quick enough. And Freddy Rodriguez, another good third place for Fred there, ahead of Usov and Ado. Let's go down onto the podium. Alessandro Pataki. Oh, the trophies are getting bigger by the minute here, and he's got plenty of them now. He's had a wonderful season, and he's won right at the end, and he's finished his first Grand Tour of the year. Now moving on to the combine competition, Alejandro Valverde deservedly won this, the highest placed rider in all of the competitions combined. Felix Cardenas, the king of the mountains, he's finished in second, and the winner of the race coming into third place there, Roberto Heras, and stage winner there, Rasmussen and Ozal, fourth and fifth. And there he is, I think the big star, the big discovery of this year's Vuelta, Alejandro Valverde, his second year, just over 23 years of age, and he's going to be a top boy in the years to come. Let's move on to the points competition. This provided us with a real good battle throughout these 3 weeks. In the end, the grand old man of sprinting, Erik Zabel, repeating his victory of 1 year ago, winning by 20 points in the end over Valverde and Pataki. So the jersey which we normally know as the king of the mountains in other races is the points prize here, and Erik Zabel has won it again. In the King of the Mountains competition, he was a very solid leader, never really challenged. From Colombia, Felix Cardenas getting in the end 204 points to anybody else's 112. Almost double there, wasn't it? Aitor Osa, Johan Horach in third place. And there he is, Cardenas, having really the last few days more or less off, as he knew he was going to win this award as he came down into Madrid. Let's have a look at the team. Not good reading, I'm afraid, for Once. They led almost all of the way, losing the lead after the time trial yesterday to iBanesto.com, the defending team champions, and losing it by only 1 minute and 3 seconds. The two top teams both retiring from the sport of cycling at the end of this year, and that is certainly very, very sad indeed. Kelme a distant third. But these are the three men that take away major honours in this year's Vuelta Espana. Roberto Heras, who won for Kelme in the year 2000, is the winner. Nozal, who led it for 16 days, in the end looks quite happy, I think, with his second place. And Valverde, he claimed that third place slot. 28 seconds, the fifth closest finish in the history of this race. 2:25 back to Valverde. Gonzalez de Galdiano was never out of the top four, but fourth is where he settles at 3:27, and Francisco Mancebo there in fifth place. Let's have a look at where the four Americans finished. Remember, George Hincapie voluntarily retired before the end. Levi Leipheimer going now to the World Championships along with the rest of the names here. He finished in 58th place. Floyd Landis, Bobby Julich and Fred Rodriguez here as a sprinter. And he certainly showed over this last week especially, he was a little bit unlucky not to get a stage win. We're going to leave you now with the images of what has been a beautiful and aggressive Vuelta Espana. Goodbye.